All right, let's get that audio check done. 2 days and 2 nights, Archaix Houston meetup. People came from London, Australia, Romania, all over the United States. Many Canadians. It was awesome, and I'm missing some countries because I'm a little tired. It was a 3-day affair for me because about a dozen people came to my property afterward. Those who specifically asked and were from very long distances they had traveled. So they wanted to see the studio and the library, and they've already blown up their Facebook pages and social media showing all the pictures and videos on my property. We had a blast. My last two guests are moderators Justin and Jeffrey Bailey. You won't be seeing them too much in the chat because they're driving. I just saw them off. But we have a really intriguing guest. I guess he frequents Archaix maybe once a year. You guys know the Greek, very level-headed, some really intriguing perspectives. Always has some things. He's the guy that got me thinking about the heart. Remember, like wow, I had never heard of anything, but it makes so much sense about the heart not being a pump. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring the Greek right on in here. Let me get rid of this intro. Audio is excellent. Let's see, man, how you doing, man?
Oh, great. All the better to be here, Jason. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's been a year plus. So maybe people have time to, let's say, think about the last time I was here. Oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out to CB and all my peeps in Brooklyn, Park Slope, Cobble Heights, Brooklyn Heights, all that. That's where I hearken from. Right now, I'm in.
CB really thinks highly of you. She does not miss a meetup. Anywhere I appear in the United States, that woman's flying in, and it's always, when are you going to talk to the Greek? When are you going to have the Greek back on your channel? What's going on, Jason? Why haven't you talked to the Greek?
Yeah, I was on the Archaix Underground. I did that 1 week or so just to check it out, and she just came in and really, I didn't know she was such a proponent. And just shout out to her. And yeah, it gets people excited. I find what I say, I'm coming from a perspective that I'm just visiting this realm. I said, I'm just visiting this planet. You guys are on your own. By the way, if you look up that word planet, it means something that wanders, a flat plane. We've taken it out of context. Yeah. So, and you've gone through your work. We've wandered, right? The Titus Bode and all that. I mean, you've covered all that stuff. I want to bring my stuff here, but your stuff and my stuff lately have been intersecting like crazy. When you came up with the tertiary field, now I was like, okay, I got to get with Jason on what I've been doing for the past 3 decades, which is primary and secondary field, which is what we're in right now. And it wasn't just calling it the tertiary field. It's a description and explanation of what the tertiary field does. You can put any name on it. You could call it another world. And what you were talking about regarding the changes to come, let's say, AKA vapor canopy.
Right.
Is exactly in line what I've been doing for the past 3 decades, but regarding the non-vapor canopy reality, which is just as strange as the vapor canopy reality. Why do we need such a contrast? In other words, why do we need a vapor canopy where things grow like mad and the entire society and culture is different, to notice that we're in a similar situation right now without a vapor canopy? In other words, all the way things work is identical. It's just that is a different environmental prevailing condition. So I know it sounds like I'm being cryptic. I can only give you the perspective from an outsider looking in. And again, it's been overlapping. Also, I have some thoughts. Maybe it'll bring some humor to you. This is to go back. You had a wonderful lady that read tarot cards, and she made a suggestion to you regarding some other folks, and you seem to have taken it. And I had some thoughts on that. With your approval, I'd like to touch that a little bit.
Listen, you're referring to Mystical Fortunes. Her name, she's actually a personal friend of mine, Shanta.
Excellent. Yeah.
And yes,
sorry, I didn't remember her name.
I did take her advice. It was
it's
a hard
good
pill to swallow.
Yeah, that's fine. I caught that. Now, again, just in short, I'm in California right now. Of lifelong goals are being met. I'm in between San Diego and Los Angeles on the America Riviera, where it's 75 degrees all year round. Yep, middle of summer also. I'm in a Frank Gehry building. If you don't know who that is, he's one of the most popular architects of the 20th century. Look him up. But yeah, I'm in one of those weird-ass buildings. And I have a wonderful sponsor. Finally, I'm in my approaching my 7th decade at 61, and it's wonderful. I feel like salmon swimming upstream, right? You know, when they're done. But anyway, I want to revisit that what she brought up and taking her advice. Maybe we'll bring some humor, like I said. You know, have you ever heard of the Carson Hancock effect? The B. Carson G. Hancock effect.
It's new to me. Haven't heard that one. Don't trigger me, bro.
No, hold on. It's prevalent in society, but it's really big with mushroom growers, because to grow mushrooms, you got to keep them in the dark and feed them bullshit.
Right.
So I call it the Carson Hancock effect, and that's what we're all suffering. And if I could continue a little bit on that, I've been watching everything from the outside, and I see what's going on. I feel your angst about getting this information out. And just a short preview, all the information you've brought forward, not just the Phoenix, but chronology. By the way, I recently did an introduction audio on the Patreon that I do. And also, I don't have a YouTube channel. It's done by others. I'm not a public person. But where I just derailed myself.
That's all right. I do it all the time.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the Carson Hancock effect. My thoughts on that was thus: these guys, it's all social. For example, the information with the chronology and the Phoenix and all that is poison to them. It's poison to them, and I feel your angst on getting it out to the world. And in a good society, for example, if half the people help just one person, the whole world's taken care of. That's not going to happen. The Phoenix and all that chronology is meant to be secret. The Phoenix, it appears to be meant to take the surface dwelling earth inhabitants by surprise. It just seems to do that.
I've wrestled with this myself. I mean, I've often wondered if there is a restriction on my ability to even disseminate this information.
That's right.
If it's only falling on the ears that it needs to fall on.
There you go. And it seems historically that the surface dwelling earth inhabitants were almost always taken by surprise, with exceptions. But what these guys are doing, those guys, is they got to the scene and they're taking the alpha position, the alpha dog position. They will not be reactionary to someone that challenges them, because what they're putting out compared to what you have is poison to them. It's nutritious and wonderful to the others, and the two will never meet. It's kind of like the lion doesn't have to explain why he goes on a hunt. They're taking that position like alpha. It's totally social. In other words, it has nothing to do with the information. It could be any other subject. You'll see that parallel running. But just like the lion, all the creatures on the ground, when a storm comes, what do? They scramble for shelter, right? But an eagle, even though it's a bird of carrion, it has the ability to fly above the storm. You're that eagle. Your stuff is exempt from what they're going to be running from. So you're coming from a position of power that's outside the social structure that they're following, which is, hey, we're alpha, we don't have to listen, right? But it just transcends all that. And again, if you couple that with maybe the Phoenix is supposed to take the population, the masses, the normies by surprise, and so be it. You've done your job. You know, mentioning the primary, secondary fields and all that, it's all non-physical, but its reactions are on the physical. You look at the energetic. If you notice the vapor canopy, it's not the physicality of the vapor canopy that changes the world. It's its energetic effects, right? The physical part is just what's displayed in the physical side. So with that taken, then another energetic thing that I can get into is culture. You better understand the culture. The culture is what forms and understand the ability and the capacity for the people to understand things, because the culture is where they get their persuasion. And another thing that the culture does is it motivates them through penalty instead of motivating them to do the right thing. So you're dealing with a really messed up situation. And somehow it's found a balance that this place is supposed to be messed up like that.
Oh man, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm all. People really get triggered. They're looking for that golden age to come, and they just don't want to hear that we may be having the exact experience we are supposed to be having.
That's right.
And this is
Got it.
and this is a conduit. This is not a home.
Well, look at it this way. You've heard the terms shit show and all that. Let's say you go to a carnival, and one of the features in the carnival is the House of Horrors, and you walk in and there's fake blood and cobwebs, everything's broken. Now, what do you think will happen to you if you say, hey, let's clean this place up, let's fix it? No, get out of here, man. This is supposed to be a House of Horrors. It was staged that way, right? So
Hey,
you just
excellent
go through
point. Excellent point. Listen, you just nailed something. You can take what you just said. Oh, what's crazy? It's crazy because I was doing two things at the same time. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I was flirting in the chat at the same time I'm listening to you, and you just shocked me awake. And
Oh, shit.
listen to me. What you just said perfectly describes why our Malcolm X's, our Martin Luther Kings, our Gandhis, whether he was doing the evil stuff it's rumored to be. I don't know. What I'm saying is all these people who have a message that we can change the world are the ones that get assassinated. They're the ones that get taken out the construct quick, over and over and over. And you just epitomized why.
Because kick you out of the carnival.
The constructs will kick you out. They're going to kick you. No, man, quit preaching that. Because man.
Yeah,
so
but here's the thing. You could say that about the House of Horrors, but if you go over to the Ferris wheel or another ride, they might listen to your improvements, and those other rides are different constructs, right? So you're in the wrong construct. That's why, for example, if you say you're going to make the world a better place, you're going to end up eating out of a garbage can and sleeping on a park bench. If you keep pushing it, right? For example, everyone, I shouldn't say plausibility, everyone's heard of Nikola Tesla, but most people have. He worked with Edison. Edison promised him 50 grand, which would be $500,000 today, to develop a motor. He did, and Edison jerked him. And, Tesla said, screw all this stuff. I'm going to go dig ditches. And he was digging ditches, labor work, right? And Westinghouse had heard about Tesla and was really jonesing on getting Tesla in his crew. So Westinghouse said, what happened to Tesla? Let's find out. So he got some private investigators. And the first investigator came back and said, well, he's no longer working with Edison. He's digging ditches. And Westinghouse, there's no way he's digging ditches, a genius like that. He gets another private investigator, comes back, says he's digging ditches. He's like, I got to go see this for myself. And Westinghouse goes out and finds Tesla digging ditches, right? Like a super genius, right? He's like, what the hell, right? So this is more to reality of what's going on. You kind of throw your hands up.
What you're talking about here with Tesla, listen, there's never been anyone like Tesla. Maybe since Da Vinci, if Da Vinci's even real and not a construct. But with Tesla, this huge control structure fabricated a genius, invented a scientist where one did not exist. And over 100 real scientists came together and signed a petition saying that Albert Einstein is an absolute media fraud. And that nothing he say, and see, the control structure wanted Einstein to be the represent the world of science against Tesla. They did not want Tesla's free energy to get out. Tesla was absolutely suppressed, overwhelmed by negative media, while Einstein's given all the media. And over 100 true scientists came together and signed an international petition against Albert Einstein. But even that didn't get the media fanfare. Einstein's an absolute fraud, man, and Tesla was the real deal.
Yeah, and it's funny how they have. I'll mention two things there. The earliest Superman comics, the arch villain was Tesla. Then they changed it to Lex Luthor. Einstein, yeah, Einstein's just a figurehead. Oh, that's how it works here. But it's again the culture. But what made Tesla is that he didn't fall for the basic descriptions. You know how, for example, I see this often. You'll see it's kind of shameful. People from the academic community, they'll do a presentation or say light is a wave or heart is a vortex. They never, and you'll walk away. Well, what is the heart? What is light? You still don't know. If you say, for example, light is a wave, you're not saying what it is. You're saying what it does. For example, Jason, if I'm waving at you, am I a wave? No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So light. So and a heart is a vortex. A heart is electromagnetic. Anything, like your TV's electromagnetic, your computer's electromagnetic. Still don't know what the heart is. I've been getting a lot of stuff about so-called people in the field or were in the field talking about the heart's not a pump, and they don't tell you what it is. We'll get into that in a little bit. And Tesla was able to say what things were instead of just give a description. Watch that, by the way, in your audience and people you speak to. If someone is satisfied by saying the heart is electromagnetic, that's not what the heart, that's what the heart does. It's not what it is. Or light is a wave. People are just repeating. It's all repetition. It's very, very rarely do I hear people speak something that isn't scripted that they pick up from someone else.
Right.
You know,
Well, we are all struggling for frames of reference.
That's right.
With the world that we've been told being absolutely wrong, we're in the position now where we're really struggling for a new vocabulary. We're struggling for descriptors because we now know that things are not as we've been told.
Yeah, but it's still not going to go anywhere. They talk about people waking up. All right, let's look at this. So if you're dumb and you go to sleep or you're awake, you're still dumb. It has nothing to do with waking up. It's, are you knowledgeable? And the knowledge is going to bring, and then, okay, let's be knowledgeable. Oh, really? You start gaining knowledge, your level of pain is going to increase. How much pain can you handle? Most people don't have the testicular fortitude to handle the pain of being knowledgeable. And you know what I'm talking about. The first part that people fail at, believe it or not, is looking at what's been memorialized versus the current trends of information. Like, for example, well, obviously, you're not allergic to reading, right?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Most people are allergic to reading. Now, most of the information, other than the intuitive and the humor part, you got from reading stuff that's been memorialized. And you like the black ink on white paper and all that instead of the digital format, but that's okay. That's
I'm
fine.
a traditional guy.
You got it. So how many people, those books, do you think they were all written and addressed to you? No, they were just books sitting there. Right. So what happens when you go back? Are you the only one? No, there's others that have read them. They didn't write those books for you 300, 400, 500 years ago, 100 years ago. But you were the one that was able to read it because you weren't allergic to reading. And then you're able to communicate it. So they have to have that communication component. And the other thing is people just can't communicate. But I want to go back to it's so powerful. Have you ever heard of a futurist? He's dead now, named Jacques Fresco.
No, I'm unfamiliar. I'm unfamiliar with
all
him.
right. Well, it's on the recording. You could look him up at your leisure. But anyway, I'm going to give a couple of analogies that he gave about how powerful the culture is and how it's the thing that keeps you from really expanding and breaking out. I'll give you an example. The Christian missionaries would go to the Fiji Islands around turn of the 20th century and find the indigenous people. And they were naked. The women were topless, by the way. Everyone just covered their bottom pretty much. And there's some interesting notes that these missionaries took about these people. They said that when men looked at the women, they only looked at the women at their eyes. It wasn't like a Westerner. You throw them on a let's say a topless beach, you say, "Oh, get a load of her," and all that. They didn't do any of that. It was not in their culture to do that, to ooh and ah. It was normal to have women topless. Anyway, they set up a tent church, and they wanted everyone to come on a Sunday. And the missions, they said, well, we got to give them something. They got to cover their tops, right? So they handed out shirts to all the women. So when they show up to the tent church, they're clothed, right? So the women put the shirts on, but when they showed up, they had cut holes so their breasts would hang out.
Yeah.
You see, well, now why did they do that? Because in their culture, it's unacceptable to cover that. We'll wear the shirts, but you see what they did, right?
Right.
See how strong the culture is that you can't, very hard to cut through it. Another one is they also visited similar groups, which are still, these islands are maintained today. It's islands of cannibals. There are UN ships, by the way, around certain islands. And when someone sails by, they tell them, hey, if you go any closer, this is an island of cannibals. And if you pass this point, we're not going to come and help you. They give a warning. The UN has this. They're like protected species, let's say, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, back then they visited these societies. And of course, the Westerners were shocked that they were cannibalistic, right? So let's say you approach one of these cannibals and you ask them, hey, does it bother you that you have 3 shrunken heads in a bag? And he turns around with the translator and he says, yeah, actually does bother me. And they asked him, well, why does it bother you? Because my brother, he's got 10 shrunken heads in a bag.
Right.
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 Whoa.
I saw that coming.
Yeah, you saw. Yeah, okay, great. But that's the power of culture. But what's been happening here with the dumbing down, everybody's been, I call it a dummy loaded. When I see stuff, by the way, uh, I have some people that are subs. But I only have 5 or 6 subs, by the way. They
Stop
they
it.
uh, yeah, they say, "Well, Greek, I only listen to you and Jason right now." I said, yeah, because everything else seems to be a dummy load, right? A dummy load is an electrical term, but it just sounds, when I say you're dummy loaded, it's pretty self-evident what I mean, right? To someone, everything is a dummy load, pretty much at this point. But what's happening and has been happening since the world, let's say post-war, World War One, is motivation by penalty. For example, if you ask someone why they're doing something, they're not going to tell you because it's the right thing to do. They're going to tell you that I'm doing it because
Right.
if I don't do it, I suffer a penalty.
Yeah. They're running from a negative. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I've talked about that too.
yeah. So that is that's a very low level way to operate in one's life.
Yeah. No incentives. Just trying to keep something bad from happening.
Yeah, that's I call it motivation by penalty, and that doesn't lead to anywhere good. That's why when you talk about the Phoenix and the apocalyptic stuff and all that, actually the destruction of this society is actually the way to save it,
Man,
believe it
I'm
or
all
not.
for it. Don't get me triggered. I'm that
Yeah,
you're speaking my language now, and people don't like to hear it. But this world was not meant to be saved. We're meant to be saved, not this damn world.
and it's your participation in it. Like you ever see like a really large brick structure? It's only as good as each brick. And we're like, Pink Floyd, bricks in the wall. They're just, each little brick is doing its job. You remove enough of those bricks, what happens to the structural integrity, right? And that's all they're doing is struggling to keep the structural integrity of the shit show going. So, but they're never going to be enough loose bricks in the wall. So yeah. Anything you want to touch on? I mean, I want to get into how we overlap, and maybe throw a couple of nuggets out there, some truth bombs if you want.
Well, I am curious on your take because right now I'm not saying it's the coverall, but right now where I'm at is that if I just strictly going by the historical record, I can only see two phases of this experience now. We're either in an ice age, which is right now, or we're in a vapor canopy period. And vapor canopy periods are always post cataclysm, and they're short periods of time, within 200 to 300 years, and then those canopies collapse, and we start our next ice age. And
Got it.
this is my whole model now until I see evidence otherwise. But it seems to everything in the historical record now seems to fit and make sense. Why we have these rises in technology, engineering, literature, and then suddenly it's gone. And then we have these
Okay.
weird experiences for centuries, and then it start all over again.
Oh, there's weird stuff going on right now. It's not acknowledged, and that's where I work. Um, uh, I shouldn't say this, but I'm kind of like remember X-Files?
Oh yes, oh yes.
I'm
We cut our teeth on X Files.
well, that's where I'm at, and I'll just that's all I'm going to say. There X-File stuff going on right now. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not public with it, and people that know me know. It's funny, people sometimes do what I call a pilgrimage and come out and visit. And we have a group, a Skype group, when Skype was around 40, 50 people or so. And they said, man, I went out there, I visited the Greek. Everything he's telling you is true. I saw it. And all the rest of the people were like, yeah, we know it. We don't have to go out and see it. So it's kind of funny.
Right.
It's just listen to what I'm saying. Okay, so let's add a qualifier and a footnote to the Ice Age part. Okay, let's stick with that. Walk with me on this, because this is this is the overlap. You ready?
I'm walking.
Okay, when they talk about the Ice Age, we're thinking of like, what is that, Disney cartoon with Ice Age and everything's frozen and all that. Okay, let's add a qualifier that when you have an Ice Age, you ready? You also have seasons. You
Yes,
notice how
you do.
they leave that out. It's not winter.
I've totally left that out. I already knew the vapor canopy periods have no wind, no seasons.
No seasons.
There's no rain. The exchange of moisture from the firmament, the mesosphere to the ground is every morning.
That's
and the whole sky clouds up because of the heat of the sun above the canopy.
That's
and then
right.
at nighttime it clears back into like a lens. That is, I can't believe I've never said that, but you're right.
It's an omission. It's an omission. Let's not say, oh, the Greek and Jason are adding seasons to an Ice Age. Screw that. You've been brainwashed that an Ice Age is permafrost everywhere. Let's add a footnote and an addition that an Ice Age, part of the definitions is that you have those seasons. Okay, now look what you did. You just actually, you're forming a picture that's actually you might find to be very accurate, right? So let's move forward with that. Oh, by the way, when you bring up the day and night, the day starts at noon, by the way. I'm going to interject these little truth bombs in the middle. The day starts at noon, not at midnight, not sundown, because the measurement of time has to be very accurate. It's either a heavenly body directly above at night, orthogonal to the surface.
Okay.
Right? It's not sundown, because how are you going to measure?
And would you do me a favor for my community? Would you define orthogonal?
90 degrees.
It's a 90-degree angle.
Yeah. Or in other words, if you put a stick in the ground today, you know how you get a shadow, but at noon there's no shadow. It's just slight. If you're in the northern hemisphere, what they call, it'll go towards the north. If you're in the south, it'll go towards the south. Because in the morning you see a shadow going towards the west, in the afternoon you see a shadow going towards the east. Now, I don't want anyone to believe me on this. Go look up Astronomy 101. Even a junior college. Astronomy 101. Scientific and astronomical purposes, the day starts at solar noon. But for the people, it's civil midnight. Did you get the put down? That was a put down.
What do you mean?
Okay. All right. For astronomical and scientific purposes, the day starts at solar noon. This isn't all your university stuff.
Okay.
But for the people, it's civil midnight. Okay, that's like, all right, let's do it this way.
So that is a 12-hour period. Oh,
if you can divide it in many hours you want. They just happen to divide it to 12 or 24, right? The Soviet Union tried to get away from the 12-24 and do all 10s. It didn't work for them. Their watches on eBay, you can see find from the Soviet era. But anyway, let me show you you didn't get the put down. Here's another way to do it. When they first started publishing dictionaries, by the way, dictionaries are to show the subjects how to pronounce a word, not the meaning of the word, how the current use of the word is. That's why it's called dictionary. And when you look up a word in a dictionary, it shows you the phonetic spelling. That's what the purpose of the dictionary was. So the definition was secondary in a dictionary. But anyway, here's like an example of a put down. In the old Webster's dictionaries, I think it was in Funk and Wagnall's also, when you looked up the word oats, the grain, the way it was defined was what we feed horses in England, but the staple of the people of Scotland.
Wow.
That's a put down, right, for the people in Scotland, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll see academics do this all the time. That you'll find the most put downs in old encyclopedias, because the people that were tasked to write old encyclopedias were not considered academics per se, and they were not invited to the fancy parties that academics were invited to. So they were kind of bitter about it, and they like to take jabs at the academics. If you read old encyclopedias, we're talking pre-war now, right? When I say pre-war, 1910 or so, 1918, Like, for example, if you look at the definition of water, they'll take a dig at the academics. They'll say that it's 1 gram per cubic centimeter, but they didn't they measured it at room temperature, so it's really not 1 gram, right? It's only 1 gram at 39 degrees, and you'll see little digs like that. Anyway, try if you read a lot, you'll pick up on that if you're paying attention. But okay, let's go back to the Ice Age and the seasons. Those are now the Ice Age or the vapor canopy. That's what I call. That's what I've been working on for decades. Not the Ice Age and the vapor canopy. What's called a prevailing condition in your environment. An example of a prevailing condition would be nighttime and daytime. You're going to act and behave different, like it or not, at night versus day. You're going to act and behave different when it's cold outside versus when it's hot outside, right? Pressure differences.
Absolutely.
For example, we all still measure temperature with the rise of mercury, and they tune other, bimetal things to do that. And now look at this. Mercury is a dead substance. It's a liquid metal at a certain temperature, right? Now check this out. Let's say 75 degrees. When you're at sea level, it feels pretty comfortable. Be out in a t-shirt. But if you go up to 10,000 feet elevation, 75 degrees feels cold.
Yes,
You're
it
gonna have
does.
right now check this out. If you go down to Death Valley, 75 degrees, the same amount on the mercury is going to feel really warm. No difference, no difference in the mercury, but no account for the living substances that are experiencing that temperature. So what I would suggest, hypothetically, is let's invent a new way to measure temperature for people that are alive. Right. And actually, they do that in some of the thermostats. They have a thing called real feel now. You push a button, and wherever the remote is where they measure the temperature. It's still mercury, but you might have seen it on new ACs.
No,
Air
but it would
conditioning
have to
heaters.
be taken into consideration the aridity or humidity of the area, because
And
that's what.
pressure. Yep.
Yeah,
And
because that's
also the vacuum, the biological vacuum, which is something we may not have time to get into, because you're told everything is under pressure, like your body.
right.
The current medical community has convinced people that they're pressurized filter bags. You're a filter bag because you absorb things and
Right.
you have some kind of blood pressure. And this is coming from I call it a social rank. The MDs, the American Murderers Association, the American Medical Association. Doctors, people that put a DR or a doctor in front of their name, they're junkies. What? Greek, you said they're dopamine junkies. They are constantly high with people calling them doctor. Stop calling them doctor. Watch what happens and bring certain things, anomalies. People say to me, "Hey, I went to see a doctor, gave me a diagnosis, so I want to tell you what he said." I said, "Hold on, hold on, hold on. When you went in there and sat down, did he put a cuff on your arm, inflate it, and told you have blood pressure?" "Oh yeah, of course he did." I said, "I don't want to hear anything that quack has to say. Are you kidding? You keep that to yourself." You know, this is how bad it is. Same thing with attorneys. Attorneys don't know any law. They're also junkies. They love to be known as attorneys. He's a lawyer, and they get this dopamine hit. And
Right.
if you're a doctor or a lawyer and people know that around you and they use that title, you are constantly getting drip dopamine. If you know what happens to a junkie that is on a lot of, let's say, intake, and you take that away for a short time, ooh boy, do they get violent. That's all it is. They don't know anything. And we prove that all the time. Whoever's we is. But anyway, let's go back to the seasonality. This is going to tie into to the human body. Your avatar also ties into the definition. A lot of people that are supposedly spiritual, that's fine. But I'll tell you this. It sounds, I'm not being braggadocious or anything, but
Nice
until you
word.
okay, if you're not all these gurus, you'll notice they're effed up. Eventually, they're actually shown to be effed up. The reason why is very simple. They cannot discern between the soul and the spirit. The physical, the carne part is evident. A child knows that. But they intermix, even in the dictionaries. Soul is spirit and spirit is soul. No, it ain't. It ain't. And we find the real definition of that in the Greek. We're using the Greek term scientifically. For example, I get a lot of flack for this, and the more trained you are academically, the less you're going to be able to accept what I'm saying. I'm not asking it. Well, did I just say accept? I'm just reporting. Entertain it. I'm not asking anyone to accept anything, but just let me put it out again. The spirit is the mind. It's the prefix is the psyche, psy. You see that prefix like psychology, psychic, psychopath. It means the mind, right? That's the psyche. That's the spirit. It's intangible. In other words, if you have a record or a CD and you give that to a materials analyst, he's just going to tell you about the material. He can't see that you have music recorded on there, the materialist, at all. You need a special device to play that CD or that record album to get the information off of it, right? So that is the spirit, and it is transferable. It's completely intangible. Now, the soul is the pneuma in Greek, and it has to do with breathing. It's the PNU prefix. That's where you get the word pneumatic from, pneumonia, right? So let's break it down. Everyone has an individual spirit it's what makes you you. It's intangible. It comes from the source. Your soul is your metabolism. For example, if you want to check if someone has a soul, if they have a pulse and they're breathing and their metabolic systems are working, because you can have a pulse and be breathing and you could have liver failure. You won't live very long. So the soul doesn't really leave the body, it just ceases, and you can transfer one soul to the next. For example, you ever heard of resuscitation, CPR?
Absolutely.
When someone's not breathing and their heart stopped, they don't have a soul. You can put your soul into their body by resuscitation methods. You can resuscitate the heart and the lungs. And once you put your soul into their body, then they operate as an individual soul. Just like you read in Genesis, he breathed into man. He doesn't constantly breathe into man, just had to get him started, right? So, for example, going back to the spirit or the mind, the avatars that we're in, if your body is unconscious and your soul is dormant, because your soul is dormant when you're sleeping, everything lowers. You lose consciousness, right? If you knock someone unconscious, or if you were in a coma and you slept without dreaming, you would have no consciousness at all, right? So the spirit's consciousness, the mind's consciousness in this avatar is dependent on the soul and the body being awake. Very simple. Now,
So
I think I made it even more fundamental than it should be, but I hope it came across. Go ahead.
So the psyche.
Yes, the mind.
So the Greek psyche is. You're saying that's more akin to the soul than like.
No. The soul is your metabolism.
All right.
Let's go back.
So the soul is strictly the avatar.
It's strictly the avatar's ability to be alive versus dead.
Okay, so this makes a lot of sense because in a lot of the old English books where we have the single F is just an F, but the two F's together is a S. When there was that literary transition from the old French to the early English, a lot of these books in the 1600s that are written in that way, this real strange, like still holding on to French syntax and grammar, but the words are in English. They're a rough read, but
Romanized script.
But the body is always. It's like the word body and soul is used interchangeably over and over.
400 you got it.
400 years ago.
This is a hard notion to grasp on a fly like this because
they actually use the word soul for body over and over and over. They talked about
that's right.
They even say in an earthquake we had 152 souls expired.
Yeah, it's living soul. The spirit is your mind. Yeah, the spirit is the mind.
The pneuma for like pneumatics. That was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it's like the Greek KN. It's like the Egyptian KNEPH. It always had like a feminine tense.
Neph. Yeah, Neph is the soul, and Ruk is the mind. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the same thing in Greek then.
Yeah, well, we're not using the Ruk for the mind and the Neph for the breath. Well, that's more of the Chaldean Egyptian, which, by the way, is very similar. We're using the Greek parlance. We're using this. Whenever you see the PSY prefix, it's the
Mhm.
mind. Psychopaths,
Okay.
psychology, psychic, right?
Okay.
And the pneuma, pneumatic, pneumonia, is the actual breath. The reason the ancients stuck on the breath with the soul is because that was the easiest way to see if someone was alive versus
Yeah.
looking for a pulse, right?
Absolutely.
So here's another. Can we get more advanced on this just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, check it out. Now, the body is not entirely just the metabolism in the body. It has a little bit of the spirit in there. It has its own little mind of its own. It's centered around the heart. You know, there's brain tissue in the heart. Let's leave that alone for now. Um, uh, the body itself has a little piece of its own little spirit. I'll give you an example. So you got this guy, right? And he's contemplating suicide by drowning. Okay, he's just tired. He's had enough of this shit show, right? So he jumps into a pool and he begins to drown. And suddenly something in him rises up and says, I don't want to drown. I want to live. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's the body's little bit of that spirit, the mind that the body has. It has the mind that the body has also does a lot of involuntary actions. Like if someone's gonna strike you, you automatically flinch because you recognize it as a potential strike.
Right.
So you have a little bit of that mind, and there's less of it in the spirit. In other words, the spirit doesn't have very much of a metabolistic carnal. That's the carnal part of the spirit. By the way, all the ancient writs warn us against that. By the way, for the spirit to start chasing carnal things, there's a warning there. Caveat doesn't mean you can't. You just have to do it cautiously. It's not a prohibition. It's just like it's a caveat. If your mind is going to chase carnal things, be careful,
Yeah,
right?
these caveats are I
Tied
haven't
in.
I haven't mentioned it as to my own community as a caveat, but I have discussed this with my community in different ways, such as a lot of the warnings that we're given in religious texts, a lot of moral, ethical warnings are because we have different character types, and some people have addictive personalities, and they will engage in something and then never stop engaging, and it becomes a problem. Whereas other people can engage in an activity and they can do it so objectively that it doesn't contaminate them. It was
Hmm.
something, it was an experience, and they move on. And some people
Right.
don't have that maturity. So these caveats are really good because it really puts the ball in your court as opposed to creating a stricture that says you can or cannot do something.
Mhm. That's where the decisions come in. The word decide means to cut away. So
Yeah, you can break it down like that. I get yes, you can.
yeah, it means to cut away. Look it up. So when you're making a decision, it's really a process of elimination. So how can you really make a bad decision if you're making a decision because you've cut away all the things already? You see,
That's
you're
so
left with
crazy.
one
It's
thing.
so crazy you say that. That is one of the Archaix research tenets to eliminate everything that does not belong to see what's left. It's
Right. So
crazy.
by that operation, the operation of the word, not what we think it means, is you're always making the best decision because you couldn't make a decision unless you cut away the others. So
Wow.
yeah, this is like basic rational. I'm trying to lay down the foundation that I do with the folks that I've been working with for years. I don't have followers, by the way. I just want to interject. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have a website. Um, I believe in first principle, the spiritual side, that in order for something to come into this reality, you just need 2 or 3 witnesses, and then you're cleared from it. So if I get 2 or 3 people in this construct to get what I'm able to share, my job is done. Then it's up to them to get 2 or 3 people, and so on and so forth, right? And by the way, also I'm not against YouTube. I am against their terms and services. That's why I don't do a YouTube channel. But the
Right?
main reason is I don't have the time. The stuff that I build anything, I research everything, um, and I don't have enough time. I try to make as much time to do what's important to me. And I've realized at one point, maybe a decade ago, in order to do media, it could become a black hole. It could take all your time.
You
you
can.
know you can just put something up and say, let's say you want to do a half-hour presentation. I've spent a day on a half-hour presentation because I wasn't happy with it, redoing it and all this. This is ridiculous. I can't do this because if I'm doing this, who's going to do the other stuff, right? So anything that you see that's public is done by others, even the current project. But anyway, I want to keep this presentation with you kind of relaxed and
Yeah,
easy moving around, because a lot of the stuff I get into is really, really deep and it requires background, but the background is fundamental and basic. Here's the thing I promise people my whole life, I will never bring up a new concept that cannot be grasped by a 9 or 10 or 12-year-old or sixth grade or eighth grade reading level. Totally unnecessary. Shop talk, specialized language and jargon is completely, it's there to hide. Just like the Latin was there to hide in the Mass, no one understood what the hell they were saying. You go look at legal parlance and medical parlance, scientific, all of that is to hide. It's to impress you. That's where the word quack comes from. Quack was a term, an old term, which meant to brag or boast. Yeah. So, and
wow,
that's why, yeah, yeah. Um, so, and somehow it got attributed to ducks. Sorry for the ducks, but
yeah.
either way,
I
yeah,
wonder if it was borrowed from the fact that ducks look proud when they're quacking.
I'd say they do. They got their
Yeah,
chest up in the air and all that. They got sharp little teeth too, so you got to be
yeah,
careful with those guys. Um, so primary, secondary field, we notice we walked away from the ice age and the I want to go
yes,
back to the seasonality. Let's revisit that. So I think we have license to amend the concept, the overarching concept that ice age is the way they show us in cartoons is not plausible to me.
right.
So I would integrate the four seasons as part of the
Dude,
ice
that was
age.
genius. I'm a little humbled and I'm a little
Don't be, don't be.
I'm a little ticked off, man, that I have completely overlooked something that was so obvious because I have told my community over and over. I have four science books by scientists that were all writing about vapor canopy mechanics in the 1930s, 50s, 60s, and 80s. I have those books. I've shared them with my community. And I tell them vapor canopy, it's almost no wind except over large bodies of water, and
Hmm.
it's humid environment, but the humidity leaves during the nighttime. It's only during the day, but during the day it's actually dark, and at nighttime it's brilliant with stars, and the moon is huge and magnified, and it's a totally different world, and there are no seasons. But I never made the shit. It makes sense of everything, and because 30% of the world right now, 30% of the world's surface is covered in ice caps right now. That's an ice age. That is an
Yeah.
ice age.
Yeah,
So
and we fell for the cartoon. I call it cartoon aspect that an ice age is just permafrost everywhere.
yeah,
We fell for that, just like we fall for, why are dinosaurs found on the surface? Have you ever heard of the Marco Polo, the Adventures of Marco Polo, where he traveled east and he saw that the emperor's chariot was pulled by giant lizards and it was 30 hands tall. 30 hands tall would be about 15 feet tall lizard, and the
I've
giant
got to
serpents.
listen.
Yeah.
You know what? I have a Microsoft Word file open right here with notes that I'm making of things you've said, and I
Okay.
have to add. I have to add that because I'm about to go read Marco Polo now
Yeah, and
because
you know what
I
they
have to
did?
have that giant lizard reference. You know I do.
Yeah, the emperor's chariot was pulled by giant lizards, and hands are about 6 inches or so. So we're looking at 15 foot tall, which is not a big Bronto, but it's pretty big. 15
Yep,
feet. Shit,
but
most
it
people's
shows.
ceilings.
But it shows
Yeah,
what we have in the Ica stones in Acambaro, where we were domesticating giant lizards.
that's about the size. You saw like they're about twice the height of a man, right? In the
Yeah,
Ica
that's about
stones.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about right. Anything above that is not too practical. Like, there's catfish in certain swamps and stuff that could swallow a child, right? They just keep growing to their environment.
Oh, I've seen them on the
Uh,
news. I've posted them on X. The
well, they're
mudcat,
huge.
the mudcats in Texas, Lake Striker. Lake Striker is a lake. It's a lake. People come all over the United States because it's they don't even advertise it. But we have a lake in East Texas called Lake Striker, and it's real close to the swamplands of Louisiana, the bayous. And
Hmm.
half of Lake Striker is a swamp. There are giant spiders. It's like going back into a prehistoric world, Lake
There you
Striker.
go.
And listen, there are mud cats in there that have swallowed people, and it's they got this is Texas, and there's giant alligator gar in there. There's
Hmm.
alligators, there's giant mud cats, and all day long you just see these giant spiders running from lily pad to lily pad. When you go out in a boat on a flat, you got to go out on a flatbed. A canoe's too dangerous out in Lake Striker. But when you go out on a little flatbed and do fishing, you will see these spiders. These spiders run for their life from lily pad to lily pad, and a lot of them don't make it. They get. I'm talking about these huge fish just suck them down. But
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
why won't you find that in other places? Because the prevailing conditions in those swamps allows for that,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And so the prevailing conditions is what we want to get to, or I'd like to touch on. I want to edify as many people here as possible on how simple this is. People find it really strange. You've heard that if you didn't pay a lot for it, it's not worth much, right? So if we give it away for free, it's optional. You can take it or leave it, right?
Right. Right.
So let's give away some stuff here. So the seasonality that we're experiencing, for example, if this is a big proponent, let me just go on one thing here. You've heard of health. Everyone's talking about their health. That's a total misnomer. It's incorrect. I never talk about health. I talk about fitness. I'll give you an example because this is going to tie into seasonality. Just another introduction. We're going to introduce like 4 or 5 things, parallel things here, and then go back to the
Right.
Ice Age. Okay, so let's scrap the word health. I'm going to show you how there's no such thing as health. It's all fitness level. Okay, so you got a guy sits in an office 8 hours a day. That's what he does. He walks a little bit, eats a regular diet. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
go. He's going to go climb Mount Everest next week. You know, he won't make it past halfway. He'll probably die if he goes beyond that.
There's still
Is
like 140 bodies up there, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Is it because he's unhealthy or because he lacks the fitness level to do it? The second part.
Mm.
Could it be that your fitness level is so low because of poor diet and conditions that your ankles are swollen and your blood is toxified and you can't walk? Is that health or is that a fitness condition? It's a fitness condition. When you say health, it sounds like you got to go somewhere to get something because you don't know what to do. But when you say fitness, everyone knows what to do. I got to clean up my diet. I got to get more exercise. I got to stop doing this and do more of that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I get a lot of people, by the way. It's so simple. Say, Greek, I've got this is making me sick, you know, or whatever. You know, what do you think? I'm like, well, look, dude, you only know what's making you sick. No one can tell you what's making you sick. You can diagnose it. So, what do you recommend? A recommendation would be real simple. This is fundamental, Jason. Make a list. Make 2 columns on a piece of paper. On the left, all the things you like to eat, like to do, and all that. On the right, make of all the a list of all the things you don't like to do or you think you should be doing, and then switch them because your current condition is based on everything that you're doing. If you change what you're doing and eating and thinking, you can know that condition will also change no matter what. You call it breaking pattern.
Right.
It's you have no choice. If you break pattern or change what you're doing, the resultant will be something completely different. And you could steer that. You don't want to go on a ship without a paddle, right? You can
That's
control
right.
it, you can regulate it. So this is the basis of fitness level. We're in this seasonal thing. So let me give you an example. I'll give it as an example instead of just dropping it. So I knew someone, I still know them, and I just met them, and they took me over to where they live. And it was late fall. It starts to get kind of chilly, you know, and she was in a jacket, and I was in a short sleeve shirt. So she says, it's kind of cold, isn't it? And I'm like, not really. It's just late fall. It's not too bad. So I go see where she lives, and she has bananas and fruit on the counter. And I'm like, oh, you're eating bananas. You know, those are grown in the tropics. So when you start eating tropical foods in a cold, let's say, situation, it's going to adjust your blood chemistry to the tropics, which is thin
Wow.
blood, right? So what I did was I went out and got a
Damn, that's
piece.
a really good point, man. That our
Hold on.
souls are
Yeah.
absolutely programmed to react to certain foods. That's very interesting.
Check this out because you hear about people trying diets, man. You got to, you know, I hear people trying diets. I'm yelling at the computer, you know, like, who are you yelling at? This crazy guy, right? So, um, okay. So, what I did right away, just to prove a point, I went out and got a piece of salmon, which is an Arctic fish, and poached it. And I said, eat this for the next 2 days. In 2 or 3 days, she was out in a t shirt.
Damn, you know what? All Damn, all the fatty acids in the fish.
No. Don't think of it the material. No, I'm not. Go ahead and think of the fatty acids. But if I put fatty acids,
I'm thinking about pig. I'm talking. Well, what people in the alpine diet. I'm talking about pig and your salmon, your fish, and how eating those they have the right fats
for cold. Now let's do the antithesis. I was in Tucson, and it gets stupid hot in the sun there. If you're working outdoors, you can't reach into a bucket and grab your tools. You have to fill a bucket with water because it'll burn your hand. That's how hot it gets there. Not as hot as Phoenix because it's high altitude, but I remember going into some people's homes in the summer, and they had the AC turned down to 65, and they were still hot, and they were eating salmon in the summer because it was fashionable. Remember about 10, 15 years ago, it was real fashionable to eat salmon. Then it came out, they're putting color in it and shouldn't eat it. Well, anyway.
The only thing about salmon that I know for a fact is that
we're stuck on salmon.
I go to a lot of restaurants, and I know to look at the menus, and the menu tells me if it's Atlantic salmon, I know it's farmed. If it's just salmon, it's caught fresh Pacific.
Okay. Here, let's carry further. So if you're in the tropics and you eat fatty foods that come from the north, it's going to adapt you to the north, and you will never cool down. Never. So eating seasonally is important. So give you an example. You know how people catch colds around the winter time and they blame it on viruses and bacteria and all that other stuff. Let me ask you, what happens during the holiday season? Don't they have all these parties, and don't they have sugary things and
all this crap,
all kinds of stuff?
Yes.
You're not wrong about calling it crap, but let's see where its origin is from. Fruit cakes and chocolates and all these things, those are all tropical foods. What's interesting is the people that don't do those holidays, let's say they're from Asia or India, and they stick to a more traditional diet, they don't catch that winter cold. Only the people eating that way do. Not in all cases, but most cases. So in other words, just like if you're in a vapor canopy or in an ice age, the prevailing conditions are going to dictate what you should do. Analyzing, an intelligent being will analyze the prevailing conditions. You're probably old enough to remember the Alaska pipeline. That was a big deal in the 70s.
I remember reading about it. I wasn't aware at the time.
Yeah, okay. It was a big deal. They were trying to get people to go up there and work on it. Remember, it was a big project. And I remember being in New York, this young girl, she said, my dad's going up to Alaskan pipeline. I won't see him for a year. And I went over to their house, and the company, Exxon or whatever, gave them a little pamphlet. And it says, before you come up here, for 2 weeks before you come up to Alaska, we want you to get a container of Cool Whip and put a tablespoon of corn oil in that and eat that every day. What do Eskimos eat? The Inuits, fat, right?
Wow.
Now, if you're going to the tropics, you know, that would be the antithesis of what you should do, right? So seasonality. Give you another example. Oh yeah, you know, your children are getting a cold because they need vitamin C. You know, it's like 2 feet of snow outside. It gets cold in Texas where you are, right? Don't you get below freezing?
Oh, for about 2 to 5 days a year, we get below freezing. It's not bad. It's never long.
Okay. All right. Well, if it's not that long, but it still might apply if it's longer than that. So up in New York, in the northern states, they say your children are getting sick, they need vitamin C. So they go run and get orange juice and all that, which is a warm climate fruit. Then they start developing, it never works. Now, you might have a pattern break where there's people that dose on vitamin C. Yeah, I got rid of my cold, but it only works once. That's why herbs and things, all these herbologists, it might work, but you have to take the prevailing condition. If you have an herbologist that says, oh, I've got this thing, do this herb, and you go look up the herb and you see where it grows and it's tropical and it's wintertime by you, it might be best to put it aside and save that for another season, you see. So the primary thing that I suggest with diets is eating seasonally, and then of course locally. And one way to do that is cross latitude. Just put your finger on a map. It doesn't matter if it's round or flat, and run it cross latitude, and that gives you all the variety. So let's say where you're at, cross latitude, you could run
30 degrees. I'm 30 degrees north latitude almost my entire life. Even the prisons I was in was like along this 30 degree strip, which is like
There you go.
perfect on the same latitude as the Great Pyramid that I'm always writing about. It is so bizarre how I've lived my life on this latitude the whole time.
Well, yeah, it's just well, it's good. Well, you know it, right? You that means you're well adapted to that. So if you ran your finger across the map, either left or right, you might find yourself in Guangzhou, China. You might find yourself in the middle of Italy. You might find yourself in the middle of Lebanon. So you could pick foods and things that are grown along those lines, and they would suit you really well at that latitude. You see,
Right.
now this is this is not being discussed anywhere because it just frees you. It makes you independent. It allows you to adapt intelligently. Now you have to have a certain modicum of intelligence to be able to do this because when you're prepared to do intake of something, you got to pretty much think, where's it coming from? Right? Just a little
It's
more.
such an ingenious solution, though, to eat seasonally. I mean,
Yeah, this is the crux of it. I mean, and you can prove this out. By the way, I have hundreds, if not thousands, of messages back thanking me for this. And it's like, you don't have to thank me. It's so ridiculously simple. I'm glad I brought it to your attention. I'm glad to be of service. I mean, it is so simple. Right away, it'll put, I don't know, what is the cold medicine business worth? A billion, 2 billion, 10 billion,
oh yeah,
right?
man. Hey,
It'll
let
put
me tell
that
you a
out.
personal story about that real quick because it's relative to what you're telling us. Um, so I went on a carnivore diet for about 40 days a year and a half ago, and my community went on it with me. They saw, and I was, yeah, my spirits were up. I was all good, but it was a pattern break. I never meant to adopt a carnivore lifestyle. It was
Hmm.
just a cleanse, and I was doing a different type of fast. It was straight protein meats. I was eating nothing but steaks, and at the end of that, I started eating asparagus and broccoli, and well, what I did is I purged my system from processed foods, and
Okay.
I don't eat processed foods at all anymore. And when I did try about 2 months ago, I got sick. So,
Okay.
um,
You want to touch on processed foods? What's really
yeah,
going
I
on
do
there?
because I wanted to mention the
Okay.
fact that
Okay.
this is the first winter I have ever gone through, and I didn't get a cold at all.
Okay. Well, okay. All right. Hold on to that. Let's inject something else here. Everything in nature wants to make a balance, and like you put baking soda and vinegar together, you know how it foams up and all that. Then it stops. When it stops is when it's achieved its balance. All the baking soda has given up what it could do. All the vinegar has given up what it could do. It finds balance. So let's go to the most popular thing that when you hear processed food, sugar. Like recently, I had a delicious piece of pastry, one of those cream horns. It's like a flaky crust with custard. It's a treat, right? And I
Mhm.
offered it to someone, and they said, "Well, I don't want any sugar." And I said, "Sugar? Where's the sugar? This is butter, eggs, milk, flour, vanilla, cinnamon. Where's the sugar? Once you combine all that stuff, get the sugar out of it. Where is it? It's sugar is just an ingredient, right? And it's all balanced out in a delicious pastry. So let's check this out. Do you know that there are societies that thrive on sugar cane? It's
Yes.
one of their main staples. Okay, now they tell you, well, sugar will rot your teeth out. Yeah, it does. How does it do that? How does it do that? Processed food. Why does processed food make you feel like crap? Okay, let's take sugar. Let's take grain. Same thing. If you have sugar in its natural state as it comes into this construct, it's not in a bag in a white granule. It comes in a plant. And when the sugar is in a plant, it's connected to cellulose fibers, a living plant that's in the ground. There's minerals in the plant. There's chlorophyll, water. So what's done is that plant is taken and the sugar is extracted, meaning separated from all that water, chlorophyll, cellulose fiber, minerals, oxygen, all these other gases and things in there, and it's segregated and put into a bag as an ingredient. Now you take that sugar, you happen to be a living creature also, and the way your body processes it is it sees the sugar and the sugar is like, hold on, I'm in an unnatural state. I need to be attached to water. I need to be attached to minerals. I need to be attached to all these other things. So you got to give me minerals, it tells the human body, give me your minerals, give me your protein, give me your water so I can be digested. And it pulls it out of your body And now, in order for it to become balanced, and you end up getting holes in your teeth, you end up feeling weak, right? This is how poisons work, by the way.
Right.
In
Right.
order for a poison to work, pick a poison that's known years ago. There was a lot of poisonings, by the way. You don't hear about it these days. And it was something that anything can become a poison if it's so highly refined. If it came from a previous highly complex structure, when you put it into a living being, the living being will allow it to go back to that highly complex structure and extract and then weaken the being. Give you an example. Oh, you got dangerous bacteria, E. coli, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's no such thing as a bacteria that will harm you. Well, then what harms you when it gets into your body? It's what the bacteria is consuming and excreting that harms you. You can take the
It's
most,
also the removal of certain bacteria that harm you as well.
well, that's positive intestinal fauna.
Yeah.
Let's jump into that. They have this thing called the appendix. They tell you it's an evolutionary anomaly, right? We don't know why, like we don't know why it's there. You know, the quackademics, right?
Right.
Quackademics. Anyway, they don't know why it's there. You know what that is? That's the sourdough starter for your intestines. So when you
Wow.
don't have enough positive intestinal flora or fauna, that's where they keep the sourdough starter. And the appendix injects those little critters that help you digest back and forth. And of course, it's going to get irritated if you get preservatives in there. Anyway, nothing is evolutionary. Everything
Exactly.
is
I
all
agree.
congruent. Yeah,
So
there
so
is
let me
no,
so let's
yeah.
the information you're dropping is paradigm shattering. And I know there's some people in my chat that are listening to this that are catching on, but I have to. Everything is theory until we can run through applications. I want to run through a scenario real quick. I just want you to yay or nay it.
Okay.
This is what I'm processing, and I think people need to hear this so I can know I'm on the right track, and they'll know if they're on the right track too. So basically, what you just laid down is that, well, first of all, I like to travel, and I'm going to travel a lot later on this year. I've had to get a lot out of my field. Archaix Academy shut me down for like 6 months since my Vegas trips, but I'm about to start traveling again. And what you're telling me is that, like, when I go to Vegas, I'm eating foods that are totally basically the same. Everything I eat in Vegas is the same as I eat here because I pick at the menus and I pick all the stuff. But what you're telling me though is when I go to like Glen Rose, Texas, in the middle of Texas, or if I go to Vegas, or if I go to Red Valley, New Mexico, or if I go once a year, I'm always visiting San Diego. Totally different climate, totally different deal. If I choose local foods, if I always try to eat as local as possible, I'm
Mhm.
getting the things my soul needs because I'm in a different environment. My soul requires different, for that food.
Okay.
Like you said, that the environment changes. So the avatar is going to feel those changes.
Okay,
But
let
if
me
I'm always
interrupt. I
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt. Okay, you need about 3 days for that to
Okay.
see a change. So that's why if you say that you could reverse any disease within begin its reversal in 3 to 7 days, or any
Right.
condition, even broken bones. By the way, you know vapor canopy super rapid healing.
Absolutely.
We have that now, and I'm not supposed to say that. And
Well, I do. I'm
yeah,
familiar with Glen Rose scientists. Under high
yeah,
pressure, they have already seen that wounds
that's
heal
right.
super fast
Yeah, we're
under high
talking
pressure.
stuff that takes days and weeks. We do in a day or two
Yes,
right now.
absolutely.
It's going on right now, and the people that know this, they're killed with testimonials. So, all right, three. So let me give you another example. The places that you mentioned are not that far away to make a big distinctive contrast
I
that
got
you'd be
you. I
shocked.
understand. They're
Okay,
still
the other,
local.
it's still local. So what you ate, what you ate 3 days ago is just wearing out right now. It's just
Got you.
taking off. Okay,
Got
so
you.
here's the other thing. When you're eating stuff, oh, what do you feel like eating? I think I'm gonna have wrong. What you eat, for example, your next meal. Let's say your meals are spread 4 or 5 hours apart. Eat twice a day or once a day, doesn't matter. It should pair well with the last thing you ate. Think about that
Mm,
for a moment. So let's say you had steak yesterday. Today, you should pair something that goes well with steak, right? And then when you eat what you're going to eat today, you should have these pairings, because think about it. The steak just left, it left a particular condition in your intestine. You don't want to put something in there that's going to be
Right,
contrary and
right,
shift, right? So the way I decide what I'm going to eat is based on the last thing that I ate. Most people don't do that. Like, I feel like having, but fortunately their body, that little bit of that soul that has a mind in it, says, don't eat that. That doesn't go well with it. That's why you have so much indigestion and all this other stuff. But here, let's do a quick rule of thumb. When you're traveling,
right.
when you're going to the west, when you're going towards west, go ahead and eat things like fruit, slightly sweet things, hydrate.
Okay.
When you're going
You hear
towards,
me typing is because you just dropped
okay,
another bomb. Always eat something basically similar to what you ate before to avoid digestion. I'm writing that down.
anomalies, yeah, anomalies. Okay, so when you're going, let's say you're in the middle of the country and you're going to California, that day before you start traveling, have some fruit, hydrate really well, piece of chocolate, whatever, light food, soup, salad. If you're going to go to New York or Florida, traveling east, I would recommend like some cured food, maybe some cheese, beef jerky, a charbroiled steak, something contractive like that, salty and meat. If you go west, do fruit, and this is just general travel. If you're in
Mhm.
Europe going to China, you would want to eat something charbroiled, some beef jerky, something salty, cheese. If you're in Europe and you're going to the US, I would do a little bit of fruit, some salad, eat light, right? So this is the general rule that works well. Um, this is just very highly specific. If you try to do what I just said without the rest, it doesn't really have much of an effect. It just compounds. So yeah, this is a very, very major, it's very, very basic for myself and people who know this information, but it is a major shift for the quote unquote normal thinking,
Right,
which believes that we can do anything. But by the way, you can do anything and ignore it, but you when you suffer the consequences, you won't know why. And then you get into a vicious loop. What do you call it? Feedback loop,
right.
right? And you
Feedback
can't,
loop.
there's no feedback loop in this because you're taking control. It gets more advanced as we go down the line. I'll give you an example. The energy, you brought up the chemicals and the fats. That is completely irrelevant from the point of view, the fundamental point of view. As you progress, what you said about the chemicals, the fats, and the material, it becomes very relevant. But for the fundamentals, like just the building blocks, the ABCs is non-material. When you get into the material side, what chemical does what? That's way down. That's like writing novels and books. Right now we're just talking about learning the basic alphabet. And when you go down to the basics, it's all energetic. Just again, like the vapor canopy and the ice age, you had to have a prevailing condition of energy for that to form. It's not purely material. There's energy
Right,
holding all those conditions together. So that's what we're dealing with here. Uh, Completely energetic. So give you an example of another way to look at energies is archetypes. Um, you notice how all fruit and a lot of vegetables, when they grow, you have a blossom, the blossom falls off, and from the center of the blossom is where the fruit develops. It's always pointing down. And if you let it go on its own, it'll fall to the ground. Most fruit and most vegetables do that. Not all vegetables, like cabbage, lettuce, broccoli, stands up on its own. But most fruit tends to fall, like the apple falls from the tree. So from its inception, from the fertilized blossom to forming a fruit, it's on its way down. So when you eat fruit, expect a downward energy. It's typically going to relax you, give you a sugar rush. And then what's the effect of a sugar rush, Jason? What
It's like
happens after?
you're always going to come down. You're going to feel a little
There
bit
you go.
more morose and slower
There you go.
once it hits you.
Now we could be more advanced and say it's because of this sugar and lack of this, whatever. Yeah, fine. But do you see how easy it was to just look at the archetype? What
Yeah.
if we went to a different realm? Let's say someone came out and handed you a Voynich manuscript and said, "Hey, you want to see more? Come with me." He opens the door, you walk through, and you're in that other world. You're looking at plants and things that you've never seen before.
Well, you could go look at that piece of fruit hanging down. You're like, if I eat that, this is what's going to happen eventually, you see. So this idea that I'm giving is very liberating, because you could go to any realm at all, and apply it. Because you don't have to, oh, I don't know. Let's say you're pulled into another realm. Well, what do the scientists say about that? No, screw that. You already know what it's going to do because it's pointing down. Now, for example, if you look at grain, whole grain, even when the wheat or the oat or whatever barley is fully loaded, it's pointing upwards. Now, I'm talking about whole grain now. I'm not talking about processed grains. Because when you eat white rice or processed, that's what, the wheat is the most processed. It's unbelievable what they've done to wheat. When it's processed, you're going to put that processed starch into your body. That's all you're eating, starch. All the minerals and everything, all the oils have been stripped. When you eat that wheat white flour, which is brominated, anyway, when you put that in your body, the wheat's going to say, hey, hold on, I need to grab onto some water, some minerals, and some proteins. Where's it going to grab onto those things in your body? It's going to take it from your body. So now you're going to get a depletion. That's why I say most Americans that are overweight, you ready for this?
Yes.
It's a form of malnutrition. It's a form of malnutrition. I'm not talking about weight now. Yeah, you get on the scale, you're a fat boy, right? No, but you're malnourished, dude, right? It's kind of like I've had the misfortune of doing this when I was traveling, especially through New Mexico. Nothing against New Mexico. I tanked up, full tank, because I didn't want to stop. Bad gasoline, had water in it, sludge. Man, the engine was so rough. I mean, I had 17 gallons to burn off. Damn it. Well, I got plenty of gas, but it ain't no good. I got to deal with it, you see.
Yep.
That's the same thing. You can have an overweight person that's malnourished. You see, it's like putting bad gasoline in your engine. It's going to run like crap for a long time. And yeah, people that are overweight from that aspect are not having a good time. It's not because they're actually, as a matter of fact, years ago, being overweight was a sign of good health. Right?
Yeah.
There are articles in you look at 1920s women. You don't want a skinny woman. She put this on, gain weight, right? So right now it's a bad thing because you're actually malnourished. So anyway, having the discernment to look at things. Now, the carnivore diet, what that'll do to you, by the way, you're eating animal, and I'm presuming the animal will be cooked. It won't be raw in most cases. And when you're eating that animal, it's already in a state of decomposition, but the memory of it being alive and kicking and walking and doing all this stuff is still there. And you're going to get a big energy boost for a short time. And then it's going to be very relaxing, because all that substance, all that animal, I don't call it protein, I call it animal material, is going to want to be in chemical decomposition in your body, which will be easy to digest. You're going to get energy from it, but your body's going to be storing all this ptomaine energy. Ptomaine is PTMAIN, means dead in Greek. It's one of those weird words which spelled with a PTM. And typically, I found that carnivores, especially after, in the society that we live in, later on in life, they develop really bad sores on the lower part of their body to drain out all that energy that they accumulated, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So when you eat animal, you must have a strong condiment with it, like some mustard, some Worcestershire sauce, some horseradish, lemon juice, something to balance it out.
So what about, like, I'm not carnivore anymore. I mean,
No, that's fine. I get it.
still eat my steaks, but I'm also
That's
eating
fine.
just as much as asparagus and broccoli and stuff like that. So
Okay, let's look at it this way. Let's jump in a little more advanced. And there's something called burdock root. It's the longest root edible. It's in the thistle plant. And I've been recommending that to people across the board. Just like when you watch a sci-fi movie, in sci-fi, we're going to go down to this planet and it's a lot of radiation. You got to bring your rad pills with you, right? And the story continues, and someone doesn't have his rad pills and he looks like shit. He's falling apart, right? I need some rad pills, dude. I'm giving a sci-fi scenario, right? Now, they go down to this planet, and the prevailing condition is highly radioactive to humans. The conditions that we're in right now with all the processed foods, very hard to get whole foods. Even organic stuff has been tainted because it's legally organic, right? It has to be 40% this or whatever. The water supply and all this stuff. Just like in sci-fi, you could say you need rad pills for this planet. When you're living on this planet, You need something that is deep rooted. That energy of something like root vegetable will help immediately. And I put a challenge out to my carnivore friends and meat eaters that if you just prepare some burdock root, cut it on a bias, saute it, and eat it, it'll give you the same amount of energy a good burger or a steak will. You wouldn't believe the testimonials. Total normie people that never heard of the burdock root went out and did that and said, Greek is right. It gave me just as much energy as a steak, right? And the advantage of the burdock root, by the way, is, you ever put carrots in the fridge, come back a month later, they're still good?
Yep.
Right? You could store them like that.
I have a bad habit of putting things in the refrigerator and coming back and they're terrible.
Well, they're terrible, but I'm saying it could be long-lived, especially if you take care of it, right?
Yeah. Carrots do last a long time, but I do have that habit. I'll buy stuff because I want to eat it and I'll forget it's there.
Yeah. A burdock root will last months, and it's a good supplement like that. And that's kind of advanced down the road because you can see it's in the ground. It's really tenacious, and it'll give you that grounding energy, which animal does, by the way. See, the lower part, the energies that go down in the body go out through the legs, and the energies that go up go out through the head, right? Very obvious. And so the energies that go down in the body are on the left side, and the energies that go up are on the right side. That's why when I hear someone says, oh, my sister got a brain tumor, oh, it's on the right side, isn't it? She goes, yeah, how'd you know? Because in order to form a tumor high up on the body, its energy is going up, right? So I'm just throwing in some advanced stuff. Usually, I hate to say it, but life is not like a sitcom where you have a 30-minute show and in the last 5 minutes they fix everything. Stuff I'm talking about requires at least 100 hours of some study or hearing to it. It's called sonic events. I don't write books, and I don't write things down because if I'm writing something down and giving it to someone, I'm presuming that they have comprehension. Yes. And I have to presume that no one has comprehension. The easiest thing to do, even myself, is I don't sit down and read. I'd rather take an audio book because I could be out here in the lab working on stuff, beating on stuff, blowing stuff up, and I could have you on in the background instead of, right, or reading or a book being read to me, right? I can edify myself with 8 hours of audiobooks every day, right?
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, that's conservatively 250 pages if you play at whatever speed, or 200 pages. So, I do what's called sonic events. You won't find my stuff written. It's always because that's the latest thing. What's funny? We go back to ancient times. They had oral traditions, didn't they? They didn't write things down, like iambic pentameter, ancient Greek, all that stuff, right?
That's right.
Oral tradition. Because instead of passing something around for someone to read, you can just address a crowd of people, and as long as they remembered it, they can address others. So, but yeah, all this stuff, and I hope I dropped a bunch of things. I mean, just those little few basic things. I haven't even scratched 0.1% of what we get into. I just feel like if it's too basic to me, I don't even think about it. Doesn't mean I shouldn't bring it up, but I hope it helps.
I've got four major takeaways that is just the first one. The first one's epic. It's just the reason we have seasons is because we're in an ice age. Holy shit. You don't even know the research you just unlocked. I'm about to go back through and do some stuff.
Yeah. They disqualified that. Why did they give us the cartoon version, right? The mammoths and everything's frozen.
Yeah.
Why?
Marco Polo. I do have PDF copies of English translations of Marco Polo. So I need those too, because it's the Middle Ages. We're talking about coming out of the Middle Ages. There is still many traditions throughout Europe that giant lizards were around and domesticated. So I got Eating Seasonally and Locally by Latitude. That's a great piece. And always eat something basically similar to what you ate before to avoid digestion issues.
Or complementary. There's something called transmutation. By the way, I've done demonstrations on converting carbon to iron at a rate of 70% by volume. So we have pure carbon. It's 99.999% graphite. And right in front of you, we convert it to 70% iron, right? Because it's all energy. It's there's no such thing as an atom. You have a nucleus with a lazy neutron.
It's just a model.
It's just a planetary model. Walt Disney promoted that, by the way. So it's just everything's hydrogen piled up and fused together. And what's interesting, I want to stick on the carbon being converted to iron. If you look at how carbon is converted to iron, you do that with a very low voltage, very high current arcing. And when you grind up that, what I do, the demonstration is I have a white piece of paper under the graphite and I grind it up, no magnet sticks to it, right?
Wow.
After the conversion, everything sticks to a magnet, right? We turned it into iron.
Right.
But what's interesting about this type of transmutation is that if you look at the periodic table, which is very unintuitive, but I'll give it as an example here. In order for carbon to become Fe, which is iron, it has to pass through nickel. And when you're converting it this way, it retains most of the properties of nickel when it becomes iron, and it's iron that will not oxidize. Now, you're going to appreciate this. In India, there's a pillar, an iron pillar.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with it.
And people touch it all the time. They don't know how they made it because it's 99.999% iron, but it doesn't rust.
It has almost no carbon in it at all.
It's been purely converted. So someone back then knew about what I'm talking about. Look, if you want a new idea, read an old book.
Yeah, we don't even know the history of that pillar. That pillar is very, very. They've built a whole structure around that pillar.
Yeah, but I know how it's made. I just gave out exactly how it's made. Pure iron that will not, because we made it a certain way using electricity. So let me give you another example about transmutation. When you ferment something, because transmutation is actually a product. When I say ferment, it means something gone stinky usually, or cheese is fermented, wine, grape juice into wine, on and on and on. A lot of fermented products, right? That is a mild form of transmutation, which changes its properties, just like the properties of iron are different from the properties of carbon. Let me give you an example here back to food. You ever been to a hamburger stand or ordered hamburgers and they ask you, do you want any cucumber with that or not? And what? Cucumber with a hamburger? No, what are you talking about? Oh, I meant pickle. Right? You know how pickles go well with a hamburger, if you like them. Some people don't like them.
Right.
Okay. Now, who's ever asked, I want a cucumber with my hamburger? No one, ever. They want a pickle with their hamburger.
They want the fermented cucumber.
Now, what's the difference between the fermented cucumber and a regular cucumber? Tons. They're not even the same family in terms of taste and reaction at all. Just like carbon is not the same as iron. When you ferment products, like cheddar cheese is not half and half, right? I mean, you see, Parmesan cheese, right? Where'd it come from? The same milk that you made the cheddar from. What the hell? Hard cheese, right? Totally different. Mozzarella cheese came from the same milk that, what? What's going on here? This fermentation process is changing things. Well, Greek, well, cheese is still dairy. Yeah, but it don't resemble anything.
Go
ahead.
So is it untrue that so many of us have been led to believe that, like, because the pickles, we eat pickles, that
mustard,
the vinegar is good for the biome? Is it not good for the biome?
Well, you have to understand your condition. Like this is more advanced. Like Jason, if you're going to a hot climate right now, I would stay away from the salmon and the meat. I would eat some tropical fruit. Okay. So when you ask what's good, it's like depends on how you're going to pair it. How pairing goes. So this is where a handful of rules that we can continue on. But when these condiments, these fermented products, pair with your body's ability to digest them. So if you eat some meat without a condiment, without mustard, without horseradish, without some kind of steak sauce, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna take longer to digest. It's not gonna digest as well. I'm not talking about for everyone. I'm just talking about as a general rule of thumb, right? So these condiments are very important. Pay attention to your condiments. That can make or break the way you digest the meal. Just that little bit. And we're not talking about quantity now. We're just talking the presence of the condiment. It's all energetic. Remember the fruit pointing down? If you go to another realm and you don't recognize any of the food stuff there, well, you can look at the archetype. Is that pointing up? Yeah, well, if I eat that, it's going to bring me upward energy. If that's pointing down, eventually it'll bring me downward energy. It's all archetypes. And by the way, that's how they control all the normies, with symbols. Confucius says, think not you're being controlled with words and laws. It's all images that control you. Right?
Yeah.
So nature has put that out. Let me give you an archetype that this is more on the social side. when you go to the tropics, let's say in a place like in the jungle, have you heard that sometimes the brightest color things are the most toxic? Right? Like the bright colored frog and that plant, in the tropics,
Yeah,
it's like that.
yeah,
They know it's toxic by the way it looks, super bright colored, right? You ever notice that? It
yeah.
not always, but it's a good rule to keep, right?
It's a good rule with, I think, reptiles and amphibians.
Yeah, and some plants as well. Yeah. Um, so check this out. From a cultural perspective, everything's running parallel. How would you call it? These paradigms overlap. If you go into a modern supermarket, all right, I want you to go down all the aisles. And one of the aisles says, check this aisle out, Jason. Everything in here is super colorful. Look at all the packaging. It's all this stuff being marketed to children. And you know what? Let's read the label. It also happens to be the most toxic food in here. Think about that for a
Wow.
minute. Do you see the parallel?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Where is the most colorful packaging? The children's food. What's the most toxic food?
The most color.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see the parallels? It's so simple. Let's start running. I'm not saying this works every time, but once you're aware of it, you'll be able to pick up on stuff. You want to get esoteric for a minute?
Shoot.
All right. You've heard about sigils and spells and curses and all that other
Absolutely,
stuff,
absolutely.
right?
We do. We cover that in Archaix every once in a while.
Yeah, the power of sigils. I mean, these people, they make a symbol and they empower it, and it has power. They believe in all that, and it
We
radiates.
call it charging the field. Like
Okay.
when they charge the field of the object to perform a certain function once stimulus is provided.
Yeah, talismans. What else would they be
Yeah,
called? Things like that, right?
absolutely.
Check this out. Now, if you think that all the major corporations that have invested in these logos that everyone recognizes are purely benevolent, you can believe that. But what if they had a darker side and their logos, you ready for this? Their logos were very carefully geometrically laid out to be a sigil of some sort and charged with an unknown energy. I'm saying unknown because we weren't there. They're not disclosing this.
That's right.
Now, you'll find these logos, you can name whatever company, on all the products you buy. And you bring those products into your home, and that sigil is there charging the field like an antenna, radiating out into your space constantly, whatever they charged it with. Now, if you think they're 100%, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not saying either or. But the possibility of these logos carrying very powerful occult sigils radiating into your space constantly, whether the lights are on or off, whether you know it or not, charging your personal space. Now, can I go a little further with this?
Absolutely.
Are you getting it, right? You getting where
I
I'm
am.
going with this? Let's drive it home. I had a neighbor. She worked Boeing designing airplane engines, real technical stuff, titanium and all this other stuff. And she was constantly ill. They didn't know what was wrong with her. And we said, okay, let's do an experiment with her. I said, you're at the end of your rope, right? She goes, yeah. I said, is it all right if I go through your space, your personal house, put anything that's really personal away? But I'm going to go through all your cabinets. I'm going to go through all your drawers. I'm going to go through your kitchen drawers. I'm going to go through your bathroom. If there's anything personal, go ahead and put it away right now. And if you give me permission, I'll do it. She goes, I don't have anything personal. Go ahead. We went into her entire house and opened all the cupboards, all the closets and everything. And anything that had a corporate logo, we put a piece of black electrical tape or a black magic marker. We completely redacted it. We said, go back into the space. You know that within 2 or 3 days, she goes, I've never felt better.
Yeah.
We didn't tell her what we did. She says, I noticed, I said, after a few days, she says, I noticed you put black magic marker over the Arm & Hammer box. I noticed that you cut out like all the labels in the refrigerator. I noticed you put black electrical tape over Sony on the TV. I noticed that yeah, but never mind that stuff. How do you feel? She goes, I feel like the space, I could finally relax better and all that. Now, this is just one experiment. I've done this several times with people, and people that are very subtle, affected by the very, very subtle aspects, will notice this. And it's best not to say it because, the mind follows the suggestion. I just wanted to bring this up because there's a lot of, how many YouTube channels are out there dedicated talking about the big corporations are putting sigils in their logos that may affect us, right?
It's very few. Recently I told my community something what you just explained to us in more detail. But I did the decodes on the 2012 Olympic opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, and I told my community that there's some real similarities in the dance techniques and dance moves that were done when they did the COVID, the little paper mache viruses infecting the children in the hospital beds, and the nurses acting all crazy and dancing, and the nurses were dancing on the stage in the 2012 Olympics. And I said that this was occult programming, and they charged the field, and the field stayed charged for 8 years, and it was finally discharged, and it unfolded in the COVID narrative in 2020 and 2021. And the trigger, I believe, was none of these nurses knew what they were doing, but they were doing the same dances that were done in the 2012 Olympics, and it was filmed all over social media. Nurses dancing in hallways and hospitals and on the roofs and on the helicopter pads. And we all saw this, and it was all very bizarre and strange, and we knew it was strange. It felt strange. I mean, with people dying, getting vaxxed and all this stuff, and next thing you know, they're celebratory, but it was a discharge of a spell. A very long-term planning. It's the same thing these corporations do with these logos. Your black marker deal didn't do anything but neutralize the fields attached to those sigils, and that's what you did. You moved your avatar and did something with intent, and you literally neutralized the negative fields that were on all those corporate sigils, which are magical. You are absolutely correct. We do talk about some of this stuff. I don't go deep in Archaix on this, but
yeah, I don't go deep in the occult because there's too much nuts and bolts practical stuff that we've left out. We've got it like the seasonality and all this other stuff. Hey, you want to let's I don't know how much time we have. I mean, I know how much time. You try to keep it around 2 hours or so. I want to jump into the heart because there's a lot of people talking about that. It seems to be a fad, and I just want to bring up.
The heart fascinates me since got this pump idea out of my mind, and then someone else, maybe it was you, after the show was describing to me one long strand of fiber that twists super tight. And
oh no, that was something else. There's someone out there. This is the thing that kind of pisses me off. I get people sending me, it's good natured. People
You're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get it. I've got people out there looking at what's going on in the field. Again, most of my time is taken up doing what I'm doing, and not on all this other stuff. By the way, the internet's become an idiot's paradise in most cases. I don't know how else to say it. The heyday is over. Take it as you will. But I get, for example, this doctor says the heart is not a pump, and I go look at him like, but he doesn't tell us what it is. It's not a pump, but what is it? No one does. No one at all. It's very simple, very, very simple. You got to understand what's going on here. Years ago, about 3 decades ago, ran into some engineers with finite element analysis computers. That's like when you want to design a bridge, it'll tell you how thick the metal has to be, or if you want to design a pump, it'll tell you how strong it has to be to pump liquid that far or whatever. So we put in about 2,400 miles of blood vessels of pipe, average diameter 1 millimeter. The liquid that was going through was 50% solids at 98.6 degrees. You feeling me? You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Right. And they said that 120 horsepower pump was required to go 60 miles, not 2,400 miles. And then you're going to experience cavitation, cannot go anymore. Do you have 120 horsepower pump in your chest? Is that what the medical community is trying to tell us?
Its blood is so thick too.
Yeah, 50% solids. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So so it can't be a pump. So what is it? The easiest way to explain it, well, actually, you have to explain it in parallel. So what's moving the blood through the body? The capillaries are. All of the capillaries are having micro exchanges of gases, and every time the gas permeates the wall energetically, it doesn't go through, it creates a pulse, a small pulse, and you have millions of capillaries throughout the body, and they're really small. Imagine, do you remember those big galleon, not the galleon ships, those large ships that the Romans and the Greeks had with all the oarsmen on there, hundreds of oarsmen?
Yeah, they're called triremes.
Triremes. Okay, imagine one that has got thousands of people on there. Right, that's your capillaries. All these little tiny capillaries only have to move a little bit. If you have a trireme with 1,000 men on one side, 1,000 men on the other, how much effort does it take to start moving that? Very little.
Very
Right?
little.
So all of your capillaries are contributing to this pulsation effect. Now the blood has to be cooled, and it has to be, let's say, I wouldn't say reoxygenated, because we'll get into how the lungs work someday. And it rushes towards the heart, and the heart's job is to slow everything down. So the heart is actually a brake. Now, how do we prove it's a brake mechanism? Okay, they do one thing I do appreciate about the medical community is they do a lot of grunt work, a lot of ditch digging. They've invested a lot in infrastructure to do research, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this part of their research is they get this thing called a pacemaker, right, in the heart. I don't need to explain what it is. Everyone's kind of heard about it. So they get subjects to sign up for some research, and they put a remote control on the poor sap's pacemaker, right? So they hit the button, they speed up the pacemaker. Boom, 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 boom. And they notice when the pacemaker speeds up, meaning the heart is working really fast, guess what happens to the blood flow? Slows down.
Wow.
When they slow down the heart to just above a certain level, above the minimum, what happens to the blood flow? Speeds up. Oh,
That's
that's a
everything
great pump.
here. Everything here is the exact opposite of what it should be, man.
I know. So listen, who designs a pump that the faster the pump goes, the slower the flow? You know what? That's a brake, dude. The more you engage a brake, the more you slow down, don't you? So that is the simplest message. Now people say, well, it's a vortex. No, it's not.
I'm gonna process it my way. You're talking about the entire body and the capillary system, the blood vessels. This is where the force of motion is coming from.
Correct.
But because it has to be highly regulated,
Yes.
the heart is actually a braking system.
There you go.
Golly,
Just
man.
like a turnstile. Why do you put turnstiles? To regulate, you're only going to have one person popping out of that at a time, right? Now, the heart has other phenomena. It's self-starting, however you want to take, just like it sounds, it's self-starting. It has a cooling effect. When the fluid passes through the heart, the blood passes through the heart, 1/3 always remains back to mix. So the most you're ever going to get coming out of the heart is 2/3 of its volume. So if the heart holds a quart, it'll always hold a third of a quart in it.
There we go with that 33% again.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. Learn that one.
It's everywhere in nature.
Learn that. 1, 2, 3 count comes in threes. Learn that. Yeah, it's that. Yeah, exactly. It's an archetype. Yeah. Interesting. So now you know what a heart. Well, if you know it, it's up to you. I'm just laying it out. You do what you want with it. You want to go whatever research and believe. You believe whatever you want to believe in. I tell people, but I'm giving you information you're not going to find anywhere else at this point. Now, you wouldn't believe how many cardiologists don't know this. I recently spoke to one. The conversation goes something like this. I said, the heart's not a pump. I kind of led into it. And he says, well, we just tell the people it's a pump because it beats and it pulses and it's easy for them to relate with it as being a pump. And I'm like, well, if it's not a pump then, and you agree it's not a pump, what is it? And you know what? Now, this is a cardiologist. Did I say that?
They draw a blank.
He didn't know.
They draw a blank.
Now, how crazy is that? That's fucking Russian roulette. Oh, excuse the medical term there. That's Russian roulette, dude.
Yes.
Right? So anyway, when you hear people say, well, it's electromagnetic. Okay, electromagnetic is not what something is. It's what something gives off. Like your computer is electromagnetic. Your TV is electromagnetic, right? This electronic device, a magnet is electromagnetic when when it's in a moving coil field. Right? Or they'll say it's a vortex. You can vortex marbles. You can vortex water. You could vortex orange juice. A vortex is not what something is. It's what something does. So be on the lookout for that. Constantly, they're giving you descriptions. They're not explanations, right? The heart is not a pump. You wouldn't believe how many links people, actually not that many, because there's a few people out there talking about it, but I watch it till the end and I'm waiting for the punchline. What is it? And people are satisfied with no answer. They walk away satisfied. How can you be satisfied with that? Right? Because they're not paying attention. It's because the culture, the culture is very anti-intellectual, by the way. You ever heard of Revenge of the Nerds? They make fun of the bookworms and the nerds still, right? The
Right.
eggheads, they call them, because in socialist Germany, they used to smash the heads and said their heads broke like eggs, the bookworm, it's very anti-intellectual, very anti-intellectual. So if you appear to be smart, people say, Greek, you're so smart. No, I'm not smart. I'm just less stupid than you.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So
You would do well. You would really do well. I think you would find a lot of value. Lyle Jacobson wrote a book. It's very rare. It's called The Discovery of Nothing. You can almost never find it now. I have a
Wow.
copy. I would definitely mail and loan to you. But it's just he is literally exploring reality exactly the way you just said it. It's just the opposite. He's looking at everything as the opposite. One of the things he explains is like, there's nothing to fill without a previous empty. And he's explaining the negative reality that's really here that makes everything positive, the world of experience. And that without the empty spaces, without the hollows, without everything that we never acknowledge, we wouldn't even have a world to acknowledge.
Right.
He says we are concentrating on the wrong aspects of reality. The book is a work of genius.
Sounds like a Taoist influence. I'll drop a couple of Taoist stuff here you might like. It's the space between the bars that keeps the tiger in the cage.
Right.
It's the silence between the notes that makes the music.
That's right.
That's the idea.
Yeah. It's that unknown tiny fractional piece in the fine structure constant, that one little tiny break that makes the pattern. I mean, it's awesome. Every bit of
it's just the contrast, the separation. That's why when you have a thought, how many inventors said, how'd you get the thought? Well, I was shaving or I was in the shower, I try to relax, and then bam, it hit me like a lightning bolt, right? So there's, I mean, I hope we got, I think you got more of a flavor of what line I've been working on and going down and preaching, teaching, and imparting, so to speak, to get others to do it. See, my whole thing is I want to make the lives of and the way they behave, everyone around me better, because if their lives are better, by default, mine will be better. Right. By default. So I'm doing it for selfish reasons, actually. So if you're doing good for selfish reasons, it's still good. You can't go out there and help people who don't want to be helped. You just do it.
It's a reflective medium. Whether you're actively being selfish in helping other people, or if you are being altruistic, just the act of doing it will reflect that good back on you.
Yeah. I'd like to give an example. It's more advanced, but people will get the point. When I came out here to California, I was fine, but when I came out here, I noticed I was developing a wet cough within a couple of days. You know what I mean by a wet cough? It's like upper lungs, you cough and it's kind of wet.
A lot of mucus.
Yeah. And I noticed the people around me had it. And I said, damn, man, this is out of balance. So how are we going to balance that wet cough? I said, let's go get some buckwheat noodles. Buckwheat is the most compact, driest grain. And it points up, so it's not going to bring you down. And then some burdock roots. So we cooked up some. I did this with a couple of other people around me who had that condition, and myself, because I wasn't going to put up with it. I'm not the type that says, "Oh, I got a cold, I'll get better in a few days." No, screw that, man. I'm going to diagnose what the hell is going on and provide. How many? Hey, Jason, if you saw smoke in the other room and some fire, you go say, it'll burn out, or you're going to run and try to put it out yourself. You see?
Right. I'm going to try and put it out.
Yeah, exactly. So I did an experiment. I've done thousands of experiments like this, and within 3 days, the 3 days again, wet cough was gone. And I've been here now almost 2 months, and people still have the wet cough. And they're like, I said, you still have it, to someone, and he said, oh yeah, I'm taking ivermectin for it, ivermectin, whatever, And I'm like, what? What's that? Where's that come from? What is that? So we've had 100% success with pretty much. Braggadocious again. I'm going to retract that statement. I'm going to retract that. I don't want to. Look, this is a planet of idiots. I know it doesn't sound very good, but I'm saying that as a technical term, right? An idiot, by the way, was a condition. You could look in old medical books. It was a legitimate condition, idiocy, and this is where we're at.
You're a better man than I, because I still refer to it as the Moranosphere.
Absolutely, morons. Dumbasses is another one that I use. That's just typical human. You know, I mean, it's fine. I mean, for me and the people that know me, I'm using it. Affectionately. I'm using it affectionately, right? I'm not. It's not a condemnation, but I'll tell you, it's pretty accurate. You know, so yeah, take and do what you will. The thing is, I've seen a lot of people that consider themselves to be part of the alternative and whatever, and I see them just as normie can be, and they're repeating stuff they can't offer. I mean, and you know, I keep to myself, but if I can provide or gesture, let me just say gesture, an influence that they can take and grab and use, and then in turn that will affect me in a positive way. That's why I do it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, we've got several people in the comment section that we have your Patreon, but that's all we have, because
That's all there is now.
yeah,
Sorry to say.
so okay, so you can be contacted through your Patreon. That's how people
Yeah,
can contact you. Excellent.
there is an email there. There should be an email contact. Now, here's the thing. Uh, I've got 30 hours a day and 8 days a week worth of work to do. And you know, it doesn't make sense what I just said,
Yeah.
right? There is no way I can dedicate time to doing any kind of media, answering emails, so on and so forth. Um, uh, yeah, I've developed products, things that are about 100 years ahead of the current science, even though we
Right.
don't have 100 years left.
Right.
Uh, yeah, and I need to. Everything is made of very high precision. It goes to the luxury market. In other words, the stuff that I make is very expensive. It's not. I don't do merch. I don't do uh, stuff like that. The
Okay.
most that I'm going to do is offer what I'm offering here.
Yeah, whatever it is you do, I'm just saying, for those who want more of the Greek and what you're
It's
talking about, because
Patreon.
this is a whole lot to unpack. What I wrote down here. So Patreon is how how your material can be reached.
Yeah. Give me an example. Also, other things. And please don't contact me on this now. Uh, I have the car I want to drive, not the car I have to drive. It's a 1998 Dodge Caravan. You heard me right. It's almost 30 years old, right? And it's a
Yeah.
Dodge Caravan, which is the most demasculating car you can drive, right? You know, guy says I have a minivan. Everyone's like, oh, you know. So anyway, that's the reason I do that. It's got faded paint. It's because if I walked around sticking my middle finger up front of everyone, that would look offensive. So I just pull up in an old minivan. It's another way of saying F you, right? Publicly. But anyway, the distance between Tucson and where I'm at right now is just shy of 500 miles. You've driven to San Diego, whatever, from, you know, it's for
I've
you,
driven
it's
to
probably
San Diego.
700, 800 for you.
Well, no, it's 23 hours from my location.
Oh, so it's over 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Central East Texas. It takes me a whole day just to get out of Texas
Yeah.
before I get
I
into
know.
New
I've been
Mexico.
through there. I've been to Houston several times. So yeah, from Tucson, and it's supposed to be a 16-hour drive, but I drive for 8 hours, stop off in a hotel, sleep, and then drive for another 8 hours.
Right, right.
That's what I do. But anyway, just go back to the car thing. So who I was driving with stopped to get fuel 3 times from Tucson to California. I
Mm,
still have the same fuel from Tucson in my tank. It's supposed to get 17 in the city, 21 on the highway.
yeah. You're
But
getting a
I
lot,
still have,
yeah.
oh yeah, I'm getting the kind of mileage that
Well,
these
you're
hybrids
also in
don't even get.
California. You're also in California, and I know, because when I leave Arizona and I pass over California, I make sure I have a full tank, and I'm not really worried about money. I'm not really worried
Oh
about
yeah,
money,
seven
but it's
dollars for a gallon of gas.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous to see $6.90 for a gallon of gas.
yeah,
Hey, we
yeah.
don't see that in Texas at all. Right now, we're at 170, 190, something like that a gallon. And even that's high compared to what the norm was for the past 10 years,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's
what
still,
I'm talking about is fuel consumption. That minivan is getting over 40 miles to the gallon. How is that possible when it's supposed to be getting 17?
yeah, man.
Slight modification. What we do is a modification. You don't have to buy anything. Everything you need is already there, and you
Wow.
just do a couple of things. I call it, what do you call it? Sabotage. You've been
Yeah.
sabotaged. You got this thing called a computer that's dumping fuel. This has nothing to do with the computer. It has to do with the spark plugs in the throttle body, by the way. You
Wow.
just cut a small groove. When you see it, it's unbelievable.
I believe it. The restrictor
Yeah.
plates, everything about our vehicles, man. They created impediments. They could operate much better.
Yeah, and that's just an example of what you can do. There's so many things out there that you don't have to go out and engage in commerce. The timekeeping, I'm really heavy into that. I want to entertain something because you're reading a lot of old stuff, right? Now I called you a master chronologist, by the way. That's what you are.
Thank you.
Well, like it or not, you're a master chronologist. You're top of the field, so you deserve that title. And it's helped me a lot because I thought 1998 was the year 6000. And I reckoned that a long time ago. And turns out that a lot of other people thought it was the end of time. I called it the credits. That's when the movie ends in 1998. And everything after that is the credits part of the movie.
The credits. That's good.
Yeah, because the credits shows you what's behind the scenes. And after 1998, all this stuff coming out, it doesn't seem to bother anyone, just like the credits of the movie, right?
Right.
So you could ask people, you think we're in the end times? About everybody say yes, but they can't tell you why. But anyway, you've helped me a lot with that. But one thing I did look into pretty deep was the seventh day of rest and how the ancients reckoned time after the 365-day year calendar came in, even when it was still 360. It's a lunar solar. I'm just going to mention this. Like they have this thing in Babylon that started by the Chaldeans in that area called the seventh day Sabbath. So when is that? You know, Christians think it's on a Sunday. Jews think it's on a Saturday. If they think that it's Friday night, you know, all this other stuff, right? What's interesting, looking at the ancient scriptures, the full moon, by the way, you'll find this in the book of Enoch and in the Psalms. The full moon is the new moon. The full moon broadcasts the first day of the month. That's why you get a monthly bill. You settle years ago in ancient times, people settled their debts with the full moon. That's why today you get a monthly bill, right? To settle your debts, let's say. But what's interesting is the full moon was not reckoned in any of the weeks. It was considered set apart. So you had one day a month that was the new moon festival, and then all the other days were broken up into weeks. So your seventh day of rest went thus: you had the full moon. The next day, the second day of the month, is your first week count. So your seventh day of rest is on the 8th day, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. And then you end up with 30 days plus the full moon makes 30. So you had a very neat calendar with 30 days per month without intercalation. Now check this out. You know how if you look up Wikipedia, they tell you a lunar cycle is 28.96 whatever days, no, 29 days.
Yes.
That's if you're reckoning midnight. If you reckon noon, it ends up being 30, even with the current leap year and everything. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Now, this is just stuff you'd have to take notes on. It's very hard to visualize. I hope I gave a gesture to visual on that. So what I do with the calendar is, you know how they give you the grid and the number is in the open square? The actual day, noontime, are the lines in the calendar. So if you, let's say, imagine you open a calendar in front of you right now, you have 1, 2, 3, all the days in boxes. The vertical lines that separate each day, the box, just mark that as noon, and that's when your day starts. So you could use the existing calendar grid, you know, like the office calendar, you know, and that's when the day starts, not midnight. It's very interesting. You know why this is important? The whales, the flowers, the cockroaches, the birds, the dogs, the cats, they don't go on the Pope's work schedule. I call it the Pope's work schedule, their Gregorian calendar. You work week, weekend. Yeah, it's kind of, you know, and the clock I call the wind-up toy, known as the clock.
So you just triggered me about the moon because you mentioned Sabbath and we were talking about lunisolar. Well, the lunisolar system was developed after this weird period of 4 months when the moon zigzagged. In the cuneiform, they abandoned lunar calendars and started developing the solar systems. This is after 713 BC. Velikovsky goes into it, but I never made the connection, and I'm going to go look at it. It may be nothing, but you may have just stumbled onto something huge, and that is because we know that the Old Testament is a post-5th century BC composition. The introduction of the Sabbath as the seventh and the holy day. Did that come about behind this? Do we have a single reference in the cuneiform of the seventh day being a Sabbath before 713 BC? Or is this an imposition after that? I just wrote the note down while you were talking.
I reckon the second part, but at the same time, it is something that quote unquote religiosity or whatever still focuses on. And I'm telling you that if you forget about Saturday, here's another thing that's messed up.
It's a part of the programming. I'm always interested when programming changed. That's what interests me. But,
well, here's the thing: if you're going to transcend, let's say the astronomical bodies are stable. If you're going to transcend the calendrical, you have to give an astronomical alignment to keep time.
Right.
Like in the Book of Revelation,
all calendars are attached to the sky. Absolutely.
That's right. Absolutely. And right now it's all purely calculational. Or what you could look this up. George Washington has two birthdays. February something 1720 and 1721. He has two birthdays because they took away a year. But are you familiar with that? Look up George. Why does George Washington have two birthdays?
Would it be because half of Europe was still going by Julian reckoning and they had not adopted the Pope's 1582 Gregorian system yet?
Yeah, it was an English modification. Don't ever think that the USA ever broke away from the English culture entirely.
Yeah, it was all psyop.
Yeah, it is. The reason they did the revolution, by the way, is because the founding fathers were not allowed to enter into Parliament. They wouldn't let them join that elite class, the House of Lords. So they played around with other things and led to what's called American Revolution. The Civil War was not a civil war at all. As a matter of fact, you ready for this? We have technically according to the law of war, there are laws of war. We have the War of the States, or the War of Northern Aggression is really what it was.
Right.
We have what's technically called cessation of hostilities in the field. Are you ready for this? A peace treaty was never signed. We are still under that civil war. It's called General Order 100. Now, you heard of executive orders, right? President gives an executive order.
Right.
Executive order is only for the executive part of his cabinet. It's the executive branch of government. It doesn't affect anyone else. The last general order, which affects the entire country jurisdictionally, was given by Abraham Lincoln. It's called General Order 100. They mimicked this in Star Wars, or General Order 66 or something like that.
Yeah, it's called Order 66. Don't let me nerd out here, man. You're talking about
Emperor Palpatine's
Order 66 is when all the stormtroopers turned on the Jedi.
Now look up General Order 100. It's called the Lieber Code, and it's about armies interaction in the field. And you'll find out that all the things that people are wondering what's happening to society is nothing more than that. That General Order 100 has not been repealed. There is no peace treaty that has been signed yet. People will say, well, Greek, shut up, man. There's no war going on. No, what the condition we're in is called cessation of hostilities in the field. But technically, there's no treaty that's been signed. Do you see?
Yeah.
So it's a technical, but it's important. Like, you've heard that treaties and acts and constitutions are the highest forms of law, and then you have the laws of the nations and all that.
Yeah. Well, that's because the Constitution and Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation are land-based, and they do not trump mariner law, which is international.
Right. You know what's interesting? The mariner law. You have the captain of a ship, and when he takes in port and then begins to rule on land, he's no longer called captain. He's called governor.
Yeah, cool? Well, that is interesting because as the the British, the sun never set on the British Empire for a while, and you're right. A lot of colonial provinces, their governorships all came from sea captains. You're absolutely right.
Well, here's maybe you could consider this a joke. Why doesn't the sun set on the British Empire? Because you can't trust the British in the dark.
Yeah.
Have you heard of?
I'm pretty sure there's some Brits that don't appreciate that one.
Well, it's a joke, right?
I
It's a
know.
joke. So take it however you want. How about heaven and hell in Europe? Do you know that one?
No, I don't.
Okay. Um, Heaven in Europe is when the Swiss are the bankers, the Italians are the lovers, the British are the police, the Germans are the mechanics, and the French are the chefs. That's heaven.
Wow.
Hell, hell in Europe is when the British are the chefs, the Germans are the police, the Italians are the bankers, and the French are the mechanics.
You know what
Because
though?
yeah,
You're right. Different cultures do have their specialties. There's no doubt.
yeah, that's right. So
There's no doubt.
yeah, I mean, there's so much we can get into. Hopefully, maybe we'll revisit again. I would like to visit with you off air on a couple of things, if
Absolutely.
time permits. Uh, you're welcome to visit here if you ever go down to Booktree. I haven't talked about it much, but I have very few mentors in life. My last mentor was a man called Trevor James Constable,
Oh yeah.
and we
Wow.
were till the end. We spoke every week for a long time, very often, and he sent me his private writings, personal writings. He sent
Yeah.
me mailed to me before he passed. He spoke very highly of Booktree. All of his things were published and had gone through there.
Yeah.
I heard you mention Trevor in the past regarding the sky critters and the
Quite a
cosmic
few
pulse of
times.
life.
Quite a few
Yeah,
times.
his main attribute was weather engineering, and a lot of the things that he was doing, we were able to take now and advance. Just like imagine what cell phones were like 40 years ago and what cell phones do now. We're
Yeah.
on that level now. Um, so I'd like to go down and to Booktree and visit there and maybe speak to Paul regarding maybe continuing the legacy. I don't have time to write things up, but I'll just present him the idea. Maybe someone else can organize the material. The reason
Absolutely.
I'm the reason I'm bringing this up is this. I'll share something that that I shared with Trevor. Trevor had a couple of things he didn't want to disclose to the public that were secret, and he shared them with me, and he asked me not to share them in public. And I said, "But Trevor, hold on. You're 90 years old. If and when you pass, should I hold them secret?" And he said, "Well, when I pass, I'll be on a different journey. You do what you want." You get
Yeah.
where I'm going with this? So now that he's passed,
Absolutely.
I've been sharing what he shared with me in secret to people, of course, that absorb the sonic events, and they've taken that work and myself and taken it further and further and further.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I would be discussing, let's say, with Booktree, because you just wanted his stuff. He just wanted 1-800 whatever tree was the number. I remember always just go to Booktree. So, and now I'm in between. I'm an hour away from San Diego. I'm an hour away from LA. I'm in the American Riviera,
Right.
and that's where I'm at. Um, so, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff we could discuss. I wanted to get into the money system because that seems to be bringing a lot of health and money. If those things are working against you, you're going to have a hard time here in this society, by the way.
Right.
And I'm not communist, but I have a very firm belief that if you're born in this realm, in this country, why do you have to pay rent and buy a place or pay to live? And people say that sounds communistic. No, it's not. It's not communistic. It's rights of inheritance. What happened to our, inheritance, right? So anyway, there's a lot to do. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Do you want to keep going, or do you want to
Well,
maybe?
if you look on the screen,
Yeah,
this
I
is the
see that.
book. This is the book that I've cited several times, Cosmic Pulse of Life. However, I'm aware he's also written some other books, like one is called They Live in the Sky. And
Hmm.
for my viewers, especially new people who haven't seen my earlier videos, Trevor had created a really unique lens, an apparatus that he could see electromagnetic signatures in the sky, and he recorded these orbs actually blowing out into huge amoeba-like blobs, and they act with intelligence, and they affect weather, they affect volcanoes, they affect all kinds of things. And Trevor, it goes into other research on orbs from other people, but his
Hmm.
his was a visual. He wanted people to see. Look at the photographs. This is
Yeah.
not normal. They're acting with intelligence. They respond to being observed. So
Yeah, he was the #1 civilian purchaser of infrared and ultraviolet film for about 10 years in the U.S.
Yeah,
He bought all the infrared film he could afford.
Yeah, I'm going to San Diego this year. I go every year, but I'm going to San Diego later this year. And I also been invited by friends to come hang out in Los Angeles for a little while. And I'll do that. And yeah, we'll definitely hook up.
Well, if you pass through, yeah, I'll show you stuff
we
that
can go to
is.
Book Tree together.
Yeah, I'd go down there. It's less than an hour from here to meet Paul and just show him, just give him a brief synopsis. I don't have the time to write stuff down and do all that.
That's fine.
I'm pretty busy with what I've dedicated myself. And here's the thing: you hear people say, "I don't have time for that." No, it's what you make time for. All you have is time. You're born here, you live here, you die. All you have is time in between to do things. I don't want to make time for media, YouTubes, writing books, and all that. I need to focus. I've already made that decision. You see,
Yeah.
and anyone, because I share everything freely with a certain modicum of discernment, right? In private and within the groups, the subs and all that. Yes, everything is shared, but in public on a YouTube, I don't come out and do that because there's a certain decorum, let's say, right?
Right.
And I've already made the decision to build stuff, make stuff, and do that. And because if I'm for every hour that I spend doing something else like communication or YouTubes or what have you, which I don't do, that's an hour taken away, which I don't have enough time to do that anyway. See, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, let me provide a little bit of clarity. So I get exactly what you're talking about, because the only way that I was able to present 1,150 something videos to the public is because I spent over 2 decades in prison already researching all this. I already had all the privacy. I already had all the private time. I already had all the time in the world to get all this out. So I get it. Because if had that not happened, I would have been a recluse. I would have been in my own little world, far out in the country, like a mad scientist going through old books, just making all kinds of discoveries, and probably would have never had any time to actually reach out to the public about things I'm discovering, because the process of discovery is addictive, and you just get into it. You just get into it, and the world be damned.
Yeah, I'm a discovery junkie. You got it. And there's so much to discover. You know, what's interesting, I found out that ignorant people know everything. They'll tell you, yeah, the universe is, the universe is 7 billion years old. The moon is a satellite. American astronauts went to the moon. Dinosaurs lived 60 million years ago. The heart is a pump. They know everything. Just ask them.
Hell yeah.
Right? When you start learning, everything's a freaking mystery.
I got to say it. They also know that Atlantis was in the Ice Age.
Yeah, all this. Yeah, all this stuff. You know what's funny when I hear academics, when you pose Noah, the flood of Noah, like, oh yeah, that was 10,000 years ago. This is academics.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
It's crazy.
I've actually, here's another one. A professor, the moon landing hoax came up. It was like a pre-debate kind of thing. Debate never happened. Guess what the professor said? This is the cultural thing. He came out and said that if all the astronauts admitted that they never went to the moon, I would still believe someone went to the moon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is a mental illness that we have.
It's religiosity. It's just, it's faith. This is all it is.
Yeah, I get into that. I've read the Bible and gone back, to what's called interlinears. You see a lot of things aren't being translated. A lot of things are changed, but it still requires a level of comprehension. And love it or leave it, hate it or like it. A lot of the laws and the canons are still based on what you find in the Old Testament. And I ask people to get familiar with it on the law part, because that's what they're imposing and impinging everyone with still. So when they come up with something that you think is a new law, well, I'll show you where it's not a new law at all, right? So, the avoidance of a trap is knowledge of its existence, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to go anywhere else from here? Or you think we've got something to bite into?
My community already knows the rarity. It is very rare for me to take notes from a guest on my channel. So I had 6 different notes now that all you inspired every one of these, and 3 of them are research avenues I'm about to take. And I'm just, you know what? It's you never disappoint. I'll just say that. But I'm pretty much done, and I'm done. Has nothing to do with you. I'm done because I just spent 3 days with my community, 2 days in public, surrounded by people, and we just had a blast, and 2 nights. And then I had a lot of people who came from other countries because they traveled so far. I invited them all to my property, and
wow.
And we all took pictures in my right here in this studio and all around. They got to go check out my library, and then they hung out, and then we all went to eat. So I just spent 3 days and 3 nights, and this was scheduled, and I was like, man, I got to do it because, man, I like talking to this guy, but I swear I cannot believe I made it through because I really am exhausted.
Yeah, well, get some rest then.
I am tired. This has been a great chat, man. It's been an awesome chat.
All right, super. If you ever want more, just let me know.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely bring you back in, and we don't want to wait a year either. We need to talk about some other things. Hell yeah! So
right on.
So you can be simple as that. The link is in the description box right now. It will also be in the pinned comment for those of you trying to reach his Patreon and find out what he's up to, all the things he's doing. So a lot like me, just in straight square business research mode. And that's about it. You got any final words you want to tell my community?
No, that's about it. I think you wrapped it up pretty well. Thank you.
All right, man. That's the Greek. And I'll holler at you later. Stay backstage for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that was awesome. I got some notes off to the side. I'm about to go into Marco Polo. I'm about to study seasons. I'm just going to study seasons, man, and how ice caps affect weather patterns and salination, everything attached to it, because this is amazing. Vapor canopies and seasons. Vapor canopy would be a pattern break, and the seasons would restabilize everything until it hits a critical mass, and then it's a return of vapor canopy. It's so crazy. And all it is an exchange of moisture from the surface in frozen ice back into the mesosphere, which changes everything. The pressure change, man, it's beautiful. Changes the type of light coming through the canopy. It's great. Like I said, guys, you hear some of the most genius stuff from sources that you wouldn't anticipate. So I have that. I am tired, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. I'm going to go, and I will do another live soon, because tomorrow's Tuesday. We have Chat Tuesdays. We go hard and underground. Tomorrow's Chat Tuesdays is 2 through 5. Wednesday, we'll probably come back and do another live to catch you guys up on the meetup and everything that happened. Talked about some really compelling stuff. A lot of people took videos. I did not. But a lot of people took videos about the things we talked about, and we went really deep. We had some emotional stuff, a lot of community bonding, because I didn't just get up and talk the whole time. We took like 8 breaks, and everybody got to know each other, and a lot of friendships were made, a lot of networking, and it was awesome. It was the very first meetup we did like that. So I'm going to hit my outro. Love you guys, and I will talk to you later. I'm going to find me a good one. Find me a good one. I think I'm going to go out with a song. Love you guys.
Over soul awakened, in the shadows we rise, simulacrum shatters, echoes of the wise. We pass through the construct, veils of false light, matrices crumbling in eternal night. Illusions dissolve, codes we unwind, passing through the construct, leaving chains behind. Slayers of the sea, swords of pure sight, cut through the lies in the dead of night. Elites in the shadows, AI's cruel game. Slayers of the sea, we call out your name. Guardians of truth, we stand unbound. Phoenix rise and thunder loud. Guardians of truth, the veil we tear in the simulacrum we declare. Break free or die trying, cycles we defy. Reincarnate no more. under false sky. Hologram prisons, we shatter the dome. Break free or die trying, calling spirit home. Armor of the oversoul, shield of immortal fire. Deity dismembered, now we conspire. Against the demiurge, our essence gleams. Armor of the oversoul, redeeming dreams. Guardians of the truth, we stand unbowed. Phoenix rises in thunder loud. Guardians of the truth, the veil we tear. In the simulacra we declare. We tread carefully in the dark, whispers of the void. Apocalypse is looming, timelines destroyed. Unknown realms beckon, with caution we strive. We tread carefully in the dark, where secrets hide. Passing through legacy, cutting in the flame.